Ladies and gentlemen, here he is. Woo! The sensation, Jason Gavon!
Danmark har fået en ny verdensmester. Mikkel Tesla. He's the fucking champion of the world. Mikkel, man.
Nuthouse Stevenson, piece of shit.
No, I think Rosado, good boy. Rosado is a good boy.
I've become a massive international superstar. It's as simple as that.
I eat your asshole alive, you bitch. Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
I'm going to physically shoot David Hay. He fucking glassed me. He glassed me. Derek, cool down.
I'm Shannon Bridge. I'm hard to kill. I'm the black meat of the ball. I'm hard to fucking kill.
Well, I believe Christopher can take a punch. I'm very good at math and looking at a fighter and seeing what is.
I didn't even mean to hit the button. This is a really nice new computer. How sensitive is that? Coming to you for episode 405 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. We got a full packed house today. We have Andy, Smitto, we got Ozzy, we got Steve Wellings taking the role of the panel today. So you can kick back and rock the Special K. And I'm your host, reporting from District 12 of what was formerly known as the United States of America, Matty DiGianardo. Pleased to be with you guys here. It's been a dead time in boxing. Not a dead time in the world, but damn it, it's a nice release. So why don't we go ahead and start talking about the big fight between Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell, with Campbell hitting the deck and coming back to knock out Campbell with a wicked body shot in the 7th round. Oh, man, it was pretty. It was pretty. Steve, what did you think about that fight and the performance by Garcia coming back from adversity?
Yeah, I think it was a good performance. Good evening, Matty, by the way, and everybody else. I think it was a good performance by Ryan Garcia. I'm warming to this kid because maybe it's because everybody else hates him, and we wanted to see him step up against the next level of opposition to see if he was going to be ready to take on Gervonta Davis or Teofimo Lopez or even Devin Haney. Haney hasn't really fought anybody himself, has he? But I kind of like Garcia. This was his acid test, and he got up after being knocked down by Campbell in the 2nd round and stopped him with that sweet body shot. So I think the fact he went down, he showed that vulnerability, might make the fans want to watch him more. I mean, casual, not just the casual boxing fans, but the hardcore boxing fans as well, because that was what this fight was all about, moving over into showing the hardcores that this was a fighter, someone who's going to go places. And I'm a fan of King Rye, Matty, to be honest with you. I like him. I think he's good. I think he's going places.
Yeah, I really think that at 135 and 140 pounds, he is going to he's going to be dominant while he's there, except maybe against a guy like Teofimo Lopez. Andy, what are you thinking? Is this a guy who has the talent to make it so that size is really the only inhibiting factor to his ceiling?
To be honest, I agree with Steve. He certainly kind of proved me wrong to an extent and stuff. I mean, I wanted to see him tested. I mean, that was a heavy knockdown in round 2 that he took, really heavy shot. This is the way he kind of collapsed. It was sort of bang on the buttons, as the saying goes. You know, started really aggressive. Garcia very early jabs, hooks. He was really trying to land it to the body, left hook to the body, really kind of dull shots. You would hear this, obviously with the kind of crowd and that as well being quite limited, you could actually hear the actual dullness of those shots and stuff. But fair play to him. He got up, he stood his ground, he went on the attack and stuff, and pretty much was dominant for their running. Does tend to kind of try and end the fight with one shot. Kind of loads up with shots and stuff. He can leave himself open. As Campbell proved that he kind of he timed them coming in. He can leave the chin hanging out there and stuff. Needs to kind of improve with the head movement. So he needs there is improvement required. I think he's kind of flat-footed in that as well. It was a great left hook as well late in round 5 on Campbell's tempo actually that kind of really shook him and kind of rattled him a wee bit. And then obviously it was pretty much it was becoming game over. Round 6 he came out quick to try and end it, and then obviously done the business in round 7 with that kind of like scythe and left hook and that. As for his ceiling, to be honest, I was thinking about this today. Out the kind of quartet and that, I would probably put him number 3 of the list and stuff. I mean, obviously, he is a decent fighter. He's got a good fighter and stuff. But I just think, for example, if I take Davis, if he's fully focused and stuff like that guy's going to be hard to beat. He's got a chin on him. He's got world class elite power as well. Lopez, we could probably say, he's got the elite power. Problem with him could be is he might outgrow the weight. Garcia should be at this weight now for a few years. He's only 21, so a few years grown yet. So he should be at 135 for a bit longer than that. But yeah, look, again, it really depends. How they match him. They're talking about Tyson had him on his show recently, talking about trying to get the Tank Davis fight made. And that I'd be really shocked and pleasantly surprised to make that fight next. If they don't, then again, he can pick up fight maybe a Harvey Fortuny fight, maybe a Jorge Linares fight and that as well. There was touting that fight before he fought Campbell and that. So there is options for him, but obviously as boxing fans, like, you want to see him, keep progressing rather than stepping back. He's kind of stepping forward and kind of like fighting like Davis and Lopez before these fights. Maybe Davis outgrows the weight, Lopez outgrows the weight and stuff like that. So definitely a big future there, and he is a big talent. And we needed it. We need fresh stars coming through and stuff. So fair play to Garcia. Showed a bit of bottle, got up as it says on the front foot when he was hurt, and put it to Campbell. I'm not going to say that COVID, because obviously Luke Campbell had contracted COVID, and that was the reason why this fight got postponed for a bit. I didn't want to say that that's maybe impacted his performance and stuff, but there has been rumours now that it can fuck people up for a good bit of time afterwards and stuff like that. So just want to bear that in mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something that I noticed, obviously the lack of head movement is there. But again, I mentioned his size is something that matters. He's one of them guys that, considering his height, if he can control the fight with a jab, he has enough other tools that he can definitely bank a bunch of wins. But Ozzy, when he gets into a fight with, a larger guy, a guy who you could say is comparable size, even that puts his punches together and isn't afraid to punch with Ryan, whose head is pretty static at the end of the day. How do you think that's going to end for him? Ozzy, with us? There you are.
I think he's young at the moment. Yeah, sorry. I think he's young at the moment. And I wouldn't say it was a punch-perfect performance against Luke Campbell, but I thought it was an excellent performance. He answered questions that you can't really train for. The balls test, getting dropped early, getting up, and then recovering extremely well. He was dropped, and it was a big shot by Luke Campbell, and he got back up, and his legs were there straight away. And I thought he finished the round reasonably well. Do I think he's ready for the likes of Gervonta Davis and Teofimo Lopez? No. But there's nothing wrong with that at all. He's only 22, and nobody has done what Garcia did to Luke Campbell before. That body shot was world class. It was excellent. Campbell was he didn't see it coming. It was excellently disguised. We've seen Canelo throw shots like that before, so it's definitely something Eddie Reynoso works on as a trainer. And it was a world-class shot, and I thought it was an excellent performance. I thought he was dominating the fight personally. I had it the same as Glenn Feldman and Mark Lyson on the cards, 58-55. Shout out to Ray Danseco, who's an absolute clown, by the way, who didn't score the second round of 10-8 to Luke Campbell, which I thought was quite odd. But no, I think we're heading towards a really exciting time for the lightweight division. Garcia may not be ready yet, in our opinion, to go up against, the likes of Lopez and Davis. But one thing I am happy to see is that he's certainly not afraid of mentioning these names. There's talk that we may see the Devin Haney fight next. That's something I want to see. And if you held a gun to my head and said, pick a winner and the fight's happening tomorrow, I would definitely side with Ryan Garcia, because he's now had that acid test. His power is legit in both hands, and I think he's only going to get better. As Andy said, he's going to be at lightweight for a very long time. He's got time to grow into that weight as well. and now working in the same camp as Canelo. He's got a brilliant trainer, arguably one of the best in the world. We're only going to keep seeing improvements. Golden Boy are the best at putting their guys in together. There was a lot of, people were unsure whether this was maybe a bit too early for Ryan Garcia, but it proved ultimately not.
Yeah, I never thought that. Don't want to dismiss Campbell, but I think he's a great B fighter. He really is. He's kind of he's kind of that consummate upper tier gatekeeper kind of type. I know he's held medal before, etc. But he's definitely a good test. Considering that, though, when people talk about Tank Davis against Ryan Garcia, Smitto, I have to go with Garcia, and the reason is if you look at so many things between them, even the weight class that they started in, and the way that they pick on fighters coming up in weight and stuff like that, much the way that guy's name is killing me. But Tank Davis is a lot like Adrian Broner. And the reason why I think Garcia is going to beat Tank Davis, Smith, is that Tank Davis doesn't take it seriously enough. And this kid punches hard enough that you damn well better take it seriously.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Matthew, about taking it serious. I mean, to be honest, the conversation about Garcia and Tank, I think, is a waste of time for many people and pundits. It's exciting and it would be a great fight, but I just can't see it with the different divides in promotion and particularly TV outlets. I mean, you'll know better than that being on that side of the pond, Matty. But for me, it's pie in the sky stuff. It is definitely a positive to see and hear Garcia talking about Tank, who's obviously a big one of the biggest tests that Garcia could take. So, fair play if that comes along. At this time, I'll be with Garcia. I'll be with Tank to win that fight. I take your point about taking the sport serious, but I'll come on and possibly cover the reasons why when talking about the fight. But firstly, I would like to praise the matchmaking from Garcia's point of view. He's only 22 years old, taking on Luke Campbell, who is was a genuine world-class fighter going into this fight. In terms of his recent competition, obviously he's fought Lomachenko, and I thought that was Campbell's best performance to date, despite him probably only winning 2 or 3 rounds. That might sound a bit silly, but it was. So he's proven that he can mix it at that level. Maybe he's he's certainly not won a world championship and might never do so, but he's right up there. It's obviously Garcia's toughest test, so I thought fair play there. And then just a little bit of a side note before even the first bell went, on the UK betting front, it opened up pretty much as a coin toss type of fight, and even money both. Garcia, you could have got 11-10, which is just over even money. That was when the odds first went up, say 2 or 3 months before the fight. And then on the night, Garcia was 1-3, which is a big swing, really. In a 2-horse race, 11-10 into 1-3 is a big swing. And on the night when I looked, I thought, well, Luke Campbell, if I had to have a bet, and I didn't, if I had to have a bet, I would have backed Luke Campbell purely on the price. He was nearly 3-1 himself, just purely on experience. But when the first bell went, it was clear that Garcia was very, very confident, both in his power and in the lack of, or his perceived lack of, Luke Campbell's power. He was extremely confident the way he was coming across the ring, standing straight in front of Campbell. I thought Campbell landed a good left hand in the first round as a bit of a warning, and then he went and landed it again in the second round, and obviously he put him down. Cracking shot, really, twisted his head round. Garcia was looking one way, and his body was looking the other. It was a cracking shot that put him down, and then to get up from that, it almost didn't even dent his confidence at all. Like, Garcia just, carried, even despite the knockdown, carried on, just plodding, not plodding forward, but, standing right in the pocket and ready to throw bombs again. So I thought, I wondered if that was a crazy thing to do, given that he'd just been knocked down hard, but it turned out to be the right thing to do for Garcia. We've talked about the stoppage, but I think at the end of the 5th round was when Campbell was really hurt, to be fair. But at the start of the 6th round, even though it was quite a smallish crowd, there was a lot of anticipation from the crowd for Garcia to go for the stoppage, and I think he went for it, and he could have gassed a little bit. And as I was watching it, I'm thinking, Garcia might gas you. You know, this fight's not over. But then that body shot was absolutely sensational. A play right out of the Canelo playbook, if you ask me. In terms of it looked like he was going to it was going to be a left hook upstairs. That's certainly what Luke Campbell thought, and it was the opposite. It was a left hook downstairs. Absolutely excellent shot, and a really great knockout. So, like I say. Good matchmaking before the first bell, good test pass during the fight in terms of getting off the canvas and recovering, and then getting the job done like that. So he was good before, during, and after he's called out Tank as well. So, I mean, fair play to him. Good on him, and he's an exciting prospect going forward. I wouldn't be in a rush to put him in with Tank and Teofimo right now. Like I say, I think he's too flat-footed at times. He's obviously been put down, and Tank Davis hits a lot harder than Luke Campbell, I would have thought. So there's certainly questions to answer going forward, but that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, like I said, I honestly think he beats Tank just on work ethic and talent alone. But I think Teofimo Lopez at this stage crushes him, even though they're not too far off on the number of fights. I do think that there's a noticeable talent gap. But, there's a lot of good reasons to stop a conversation. And I think one of the best reasons to stop a conversation would be to interview a former world champion who has shared the ring with fighters such as Osaleno Freitas. Joining us today, we have the great Welshman, Barry Jones. And I'm going to let Ozzy take care of this interview. But Barry, we're glad to have you with us today at the Boxing Asylum. Thank you so much for sharing your time.
Hello, Barry. How you doing?
Can you hear us?
I can. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I can.
Yep.
Just
You're good.
A little bit, but no, I can hear you fine now. Yes.
Excellent.
Brilliant. So, I'm sure for all the listeners and the viewers, as we're live on YouTube now, you can see that we're welcoming Barry Jones, former world champion, and now esteemed boxing pundit. Very much a have microphone will travel, appearing up on all the TV screens at the moment. But Barry, you can tell we were just talking about the Ryan Garcia Luke Campbell fight from last weekend. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was good. It was a coming of age fight, wasn't it, for Garcia? And there were plenty of questions still to be asked of him, and I think he answered them. And I think the going down, when he got caught, I think you guys already mentioned about his being flat-footed. I think his leg. I was going to say his legs are straight, but his back is straight as well. His chin's high, so he's actually a very straight, the sort of target. So that just means doesn't mean I think he takes a shot, because the way he got up straight away and carried on shows he takes a good shot, but he goes down because his balance is poor. Now it's a weird thing to say, because he has so many good qualities, but a few real bad things as well in his makeup that will sort of, for me, would put him slightly behind Teofimo Lopez and also Gervonta Davis, to be honest, because I just think that he has really fast hands and obviously has plenty of power, and that gets him through. And it got him through against Luke Campbell, and it might get him through against everybody. But I mean, he's not working on his flaws because his strengths are so good that they're just doing what they're meant to do. Now that should be maybe you could say, well, he's fine then. He's doing okay because his power and his speed, especially his fast twitch fibers, he's so reactive that he's a hard man to come to figure out, because he can counter so fast. But if you can hit him, and especially a bigger hitter than Campbell, when his legs are really straight and he's flat-footed on his heels, if you will, then he could be hurt, and that's a worry. So I think there's things for him to work on. I wouldn't want to rush him. He has a massive platform, and he looked really good against Campbell. And it was a good fight for him, and a real step up in class. When he answered all those questions, and he came out on top. So he's proved he's world class. He proved that he's world championship material. I still think he's there now, but I wouldn't go rushing straight away. But I do like his ambition that he does want to fight the other champion straight away, because that's not always the case.
Who would you look to match him next with then, Barry? I mean, I think a lot of us agree that we probably wouldn't throw him in with the likes of Tank, Teofimo Lopez. Who would you look to match him with next? Because it's a red-hot division at the moment. There's going to be a lot of calls for the big fights.
It is, isn't it? It's hard to say. It's maybe Linares, because Linares is still a quality operator. but he is on his last legs. You have to say that now. You can't keep going to the well forever. So he's still a guy who could beat him, but that's a great learning fight as well, because he'll learn so much being against a top class operator who's probably, he's not probably, he's definitely over his peak. He's good enough to beat you. So I think that's the sort of fight he would learn a lot from, and still a risky fight to take. But yeah, and before he gets to a genuine world title, I just think Lomachenko, apparently now Lomachenko doesn't exist anymore. So fight Lomachenko. He's lost one fight and he's absolutely useless. So let's get him in the ring. But yeah, there's people like that who you still want to avoid yet. He still needs that experience at this highest level. I would feel, even though he's a marketable fighter and you can cash in on him straight away. I think he doesn't take a lot of damage and he looks good and there's a lot to work with. He could have a long career still. Yeah,
that brings me on to the next question. So we've got Lopez, Tank, Garcia, Devin Haney, one that we've not mentioned a lot. And of course, not forgetting Lomachenko, who pre-Teofimo Lopez was arguably one of the best fighters on the planet. Probably still is.
Yeah.
A massive future for the division. Now, we all know in boxing, there's plenty of talk about, I'll fight this guy. But do you think they'll happen?
It's hard to see. I don't know. This is not me talking from a place of knowledge. With a streaming service and a pay-per-view service, I don't see how they could do a simulcast. I don't see how the profits would be shared. I can understand, so against Gervonta Davis with Showtime, which is Fox, I believe. So I can understand that they could do something with HBO back in the day, or even ESPN, because they'll charge the same price for the show and then split the profits, or they earn what they earn, whoever subscribes to which organization, which channel. But with a streaming service, which is so much cheaper than what a pay-per-view would be, how does that work? I don't know how that works. And that would be interesting with Joshua and Fury as well, with ESPN and obviously DAZN, over there with the relevant teams. So how does that work? That's the thing. So you would tend to think that the Haney fight would be the easiest to make. The problem is you hear promoters telling you how easy the fight's to make, but that's their job to tell you everything's going smoothly. That we're pushing for this, we're pushing for that. I don't want to say I don't believe a word that comes out of any promoter's mouth, but they're not going to tell you the truth because it's none of our business. They're going to tell you what they want to hear because they want to keep you engaged. They want you to watch their show. They want you to show that they want you to be fans of them, so you can side with them and watch all their stuff rather than their opposition. So, if an Eddie Hearn or whoever else, or a Doscar Del Hoyo saying this fight's made, or we're pushing to make this fight, then I don't always take that as read. But you would think the Haney fight would be, because the zone alone would be the fight that should happen next. Plus, also it was his WBC interim title. Maybe I've lost count and with how many titles are going around, but yeah, if it was the WBC third tier title or whatever you want to call it, then it should be Haney next for sure.
I think we can all agree. We all want to see the big fights happen. That's for sure. But moving on to your career, rewinding the clock, you were quite the amateur. World class amateur. Do you want to just talk about some of the highlights and what countries you travelled to, some of the bigger fights that you were involved in?
Yeah, I was an amateur throughout my pro career, to be honest. I boxed like an amateur all the way through it. I didn't really change my style too much. Actually, I probably got more amateurish as my professional career went on, ironically. But it suited me. And when computer scoring first came on the scene, it seemed like they sort of all got together and thought, how can we help this little Welsh kid, this little midget from Wales, progress? Because it just seemed suited to me, the original computer scoring system. Light puncher, lots of punches, high work rate, good defense. And I thrived on it. I turned pro at 18, so I turned pro very young, but I was competitive. I never really lost anything but a championship, a semi-final or a final. So I got to the European Juniors final, and it was my last sort of year as a pro. I had 1 year as a senior, then I turned pro, but I was in the ABAs and the European Championships at the same time. So I won the Welsh final on a Thursday against Paul Samuels, who ended up to be a really good middleweight.
Yeah.
But featherweight, he could really punch, to tell you that, even at featherweight. I beat him in the final. Then I went up to Scotland boxing European Juniors, got to the final of that, on the Saturday, got beat in the final, like really beat as well. And then drove to Gateshead, and then a day later boxed in the semi-finals of the ABAs against Alan Temple, who won the championships that year. And yeah, I think I had like 14 fights in like 13 days. I think I had 8 fights in 13 days, all against champions of their country. It was like the best sort of week to 8 days of my life. It really was. And it was just a dream come true. That week set me up. I really believed in myself after that week that I could compete at a pretty high level. And I turned pro with Pat Thomas and Billy Ayres, and 2 ex-pros. One was Pat Thomas was a British champion at 2 weights from Cardiff. Billy Ayres was a colourful heavyweight from Liverpool, based in London. And yeah, we did it small. To be honest, I didn't have no big promoter or anything. We had a few fights in Cardiff, and I had good competitive fights, to be fair, from the offset. And my first fight was against an undefeated kid, and I just sort of learned my trade. And yeah, and then like everyone else, you need a bit of luck, and I had a little bit of luck, and I took the fights when they were offered, and yeah, and I got my break for the world title a few years later.
Is the Justin Murphy, you took the fight, basically when it was offered, I think, what did you get, about 48 hours note?
It might have been, but to my recollection, it was a day's notice. It might have been a bit longer, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. And that was a weird one, because I was a featherweight. I know I won the world title at super feather, but I was a super bantamweight, to be honest. By the way, I'm not making excuses about anything. I overachieved, and the people, and the guy who beat me would have beat me every day of the week. But I was a super bantamweight boxing a super featherweight, so I never, literally, once I started boxing for titles, I never struggled to make the weight. It was as to a point where I would go into the weigh and eating a Mars bar, trying to wind the opponent up. And then he got his revenge 24 hours later when he got in the ring, and he was 3 times the size of me, and I was still a skinny little kid with a hairy chest. So it was, it sort of worked, didn't always work for me. But yeah, so the Justin Murphy, the British title eliminator, we got told it was just the worry about fitness. The weight wasn't a problem, because I never drunk, and I didn't smoke, and anything like that. I didn't do anything. I was just a hyperactive, fit kid anyway, and I wasn't training for a fight. I wasn't really training at all. So it was just, I had about like a 2 pound to lose. That's all I had to lose to make the weight. And then off when we fought, and yeah, and I started off really fast, and I think I was dominating, and then I just run out of steam in the last sort of half of the fight, and it ended up being pretty close in the end, but I did enough to win, luckily. But then didn't get my British title shot, which was a shame, because the British champion at the time then was Michael Devaney, who I'd already beaten in my 3rd fight. So I sort of felt like I would have beat Michael again and won the British title, and that would have been a dream for him, because when I turned pro, because obviously Howard Winston was a hero of mine, to win the British featherweight title was all I wanted to do, to be honest. I had no I wanted to be, my fantasy was to be welterweight champion of the world like Sugar Ray Leonard, but I was never going to be a welterweight, and I'm sure he wasn't going to be a Sugar Ray Leonard. So, to get a British title like Howard Winston would have been just a dream come true. So that was a disappointment. But like boxing, and every boxer will tell you, you get all those setbacks and disappointments. You just have to brush it off and move on, and stay fit and ready. And that's all I did. And then when the opportunities came, I took them, and that's how it went.
Yes. So was that one of your first rough experiences in boxing, that you were, you took a fight at a day's notice? It was promised to be, an official final eliminator, and then ultimately it wasn't. And I'm not saying it was a waste of time, but if you were told, oh, it's just an eliminator, you may have thought twice about taking it on 24 hours notice.
Well, I would have, because I don't know if you can see, I got the cauliflower ear because of it. Because at the end, I started off really fast, but obviously, being fit and conditioned for fighting fit is different. And so I'd run away for the last 6 rounds, but obviously, I was just slipping and sliding. I could make you miss, but then obviously your timing's out, and he was a fit and good fighter, and defeated himself, Justin Murphy. And then he was swinging, he kept catching me on the ear, because when I was trying to slip shots, your timing's out, and my ear was literally like a rabbit's ear. I was bouncing around. When I stopped, it was still bouncing with me. And I think if I wasn't ahead early, I think the referee probably would have stopped the fight. And so yeah, I got that for no reward, because the money, I can't remember what the money was. If it was $2,000, it probably wasn't even that much. But the money was never a concern. But the money wasn't a concern for me. I wasn't. I wasn't in it for the money. I wanted to win stuff and then get the money. That's the idea. I wasn't, I wasn't Joe Carl's. I didn't turn pro with a load of stuff behind me. I wasn't a big, good-looking Gary Stretch type thing. No, I think I am, but obviously other people didn't for some reason. But so I didn't have. What did I have going for me? I wasn't great to watch because my style wasn't really crowd pleasing. I was in a few crowd pleasing fights, but that was my opponents who did that, not me. If I had my way, I win every fight by landing 2 more punches than you did in that round. That's how I boxed. But I was good at it, so I knew what I was. So I knew I was only make money by winning titles, so I didn't care about the money. I boxed in Cardiff. My first fight was 300 quid cash, which I was chuffed about. I was earning more money for ticket sales because I sell a lot of tickets. So, I'd make up my money that way. And so I didn't really care about the money. It was all just being a champion. And then when I got to that stage and I didn't win it, I didn't get the opportunity. It wasn't an official eliminator. I felt a bit disheartened. And then I couldn't get fights because I was undefeated. About 13 fights maybe then I was, 12, 13 fights. And then I got offered a fight in South Africa, but I was told it was somebody, the guy's record wasn't what it was. It was Cassius Balue, who was a two-time, maybe 2-weight world champion. But I was told he had a really bad record. And I was going the day before, and there was no box record. There was no really internet back then, really. Not really the one that was used massively by the public. And I phoned up a reporter, like that's what you have to do, and ask. And he did a bit of research, and I found out this guy was a 6-foot featherweight who knocked out like 14 of his 15 fights or something silly like that. So I didn't, and again, that was rubbish money, but it was a WBC international title. They were brand new titles back then. And I was going to take it. But then once I'd seen that, I just thought, this is not right. I'm not taking that. And then I gave up, stopped boxing for 12 months. I thought, what's the point? I said, well, I got a bit disheartened. I thought, I'm not earning no money. I had a young family. My young family had just split up, and I was in a bad place for a little while. And I just went, however good or not good I am, I'm not earning no money. And I'm going to go off South Africa to get beat up. And if I don't get beat up, I'm not going to totally dominate a 6-foot featherweight because I'm a boxer, not a puncher. So the chance of me getting the win, even if I do win, are very slim. So I don't mind getting beat. I'm willing. No, got to take that risk, but I'm not going to give everything against me, especially after the Murphy fight where I got the cauliflower ear for nothing. So but I've had more good experiences than bad experiences from boxing. That's the truth. It's all doom and gloom, it seems, but actually it's also a wonderful sport. It's a bit of a paradox, if you like.
Who offered you the fight with the South African?
Di Gardner. No, Di was a lovely guy, and I really like Di. And I don't know him, we're not best friends. Di Gardner was a big manager and promoter back in Wales and South Wales, and he might have just taken I'm not saying he was trying to con me and taking a fight for his money. He might have been, but more than likely he just asked somebody over South Africa who you got, and they said, we got this kid, this is his record, to get someone over so they could bash him up, maybe, that's how the business is. Now you just type on BoxRec or Google and you get all your own information on YouTube, and you get to see your fighters in front of you. Back then we never had the only fight I'd ever had the video of was Acelino Freitas, and it was the worst thing I ever seen because it was just like a horror film. Like I didn't want to see that. You know what I mean? That didn't help me. That just made me more nervous.
So, moving title fight, your first title win was an IBF Intercontinental, and you got a split decision win over Peter Judson.
Yeah.
And then went on to defend it against Afif Geltiu. He went on to be he went on to win, I think, the European title at Super Feather as well.
Yeah, that's my best win. Afif Geltiu is my best win, and I sort of reconnected with Afif a few years back on Facebook, amazing as it is, and as I did with Peter Judson as it goes. The Peter Judson fight was great because it was I got offered I just signed with Frank Warren. He offered me a title fight, and I was really excited. Then I got told it was a super featherweight, and like I said earlier, I was going to be a super bantamweight, so I wasn't going to take the fight. My father said take the fight because even though he's strong, his style sort of suited to you. And he's not a big puncher, even though he's physically strong. And he was physically strong. So it was my first 12 round, and I took it. And again, I watched Peter. I didn't have a video, but I watched Peter on Sky a few months ago beat Dean Phillips, a big super featherweight from Swansea. So I knew how strong and tough he was. and it was a hard fight. It was a good hard fight, and I know, and it was back and forth. And I think my speed and my combination punches, got me over the line. And the Jelty fight was really hard because he came in at late notice. But then I didn't know he came in at late notice. But then I didn't know who my opponent was before him anyway. So for me, it was late notice. But he could punch, especially the left hook to the body. He hit me in the 11th round with a body shot, and if I didn't have good legs, I was done because I just couldn't take a breath. But I could run away. I made a career of running away. So yeah, I just danced around the ring, and I think he sort of stopped and thought, "What's going on? Why isn't he moving? And why won't he keep still?" And then and I got my win back luckily, and but I won quite convincingly, I thought, and that set me up. And then the most interesting part for that is that put me sort of like top 10, 15 in the IBF. So then I got a phone call. What's that? That's sort of like July. I got a phone call. November-ish, maybe. Ernie Fossey was the matchmaker for Frank Warren at the time. And he said, "Do you want to... can I tell you the story, or you've got a script? I don't know."
No, go for it. Yeah, go for it. Go.
So Ernie Fossey, a real character of the game, phoned me up and said, I remember so well because I had one of these dodgy phones, the mobile phones, and I don't know how old you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pay. I think it's like 90 quid for it, and it could last 6 months or 6 minutes. It was just like a lottery phone. You know how long it's gonna last. So I had this phone that I bought off a mate of mine, and I give them a number. They phoned me on that phone. They said, "Do you want to box for a world title?" So I told him to go and do it. Like I thought he was taking the mick out of me, and then he rang me back and he shouted at me and scared the living daylights into me and said, "Do you want to box for a world title?" I said yes, and he hung up. So I phoned my dad. I said, "Dad, I boxed for a world title," and he almost hung up on me. He didn't think it was true. So, and my dad saying, "When?" I said, "I don't know." "Who?" I didn't ask, Dad. "Okay, what weight is it?" "I don't know." "How much you getting?" "I'll ring you back." I didn't ask. Anything. I didn't ask how much, who, when, where. Someone offered me a world title fight. I didn't. Let's be honest. Most of the fellas who get world title shots don't deserve them, and I certainly was one of those. So I didn't deserve it. I certainly didn't think I deserved it, and so I said yes. So now the real fun starts. So I get home, and then the next morning I go to my dad's house, and I'm like, "Box for a world title. I can't get my head around it." He better not be winding me up and all this. If he winds me up, I'm going to drive to London. I'm going to fill him in. He'd fill me in Ernie Fossey, even how old he was back then. I'm looking on. You've got Boxing News and Boxing Monthly, and we're looking at the ratings. So the IBF champion was Arturo Gatti. So I'm like, "Oh yes, I fight Arturo Gatti." Arturo Gatti knocks me out. He batters me, but I don't care. I'm boxing Arturo Gatti, who was super featherweight, was probably maybe his best. But then my father's going, "I'm pretty sure he's moved up, and he might have had a fight already, a non-title fight already. I'm not sure." So the number one contender was Azuma Nelson. Now I'm going, what even better? So I fight Azuma Nelson now, who's about 39 at the time, and who's still good. Who's still good. Would have beat me back then, to be fair. But I'm thinking, now if Azuma Nelson's like the worst he can possibly be, loses an eye, gets cramp, has a leg amputated, as yellow fever, and he's the worst possible version of him, and I'm better than I've ever been in my life, I might just nick a win. And then people will forget that he only had one eye, and he was in a wheelchair and all the rest of it, and he was sick, and he's 75 years of age. I beat Azuma Nelson, and that's it. It's on the Pat Caldwell couldn't do it, Jimmy Mack couldn't do it. I've done it, and that would have been great. But it didn't turn out to be that way. It turned out to be a WBO title shot. I wasn't in their ratings. So you had a featherweight boxing a lightweight for the super featherweight title. As crazy as boxing is.
That's the power of Frank Warren with the WBO, though he's still got that hold to this day, hasn't he?
I'm honest. I was a good fighter. I was good. I was good at what I did. I was better than what people thought. Because sometimes when you're not good to watch doesn't make you good. Sometimes being good to watch doesn't make you good either. Just because you're really good to watch doesn't mean you're a really, really good fighter. It just means you're excited. And yet sometimes you go the other way. So I was good. Was I champion of the world good? If I'm honest, I'm not. If I'm honest, why am I umming and ahhing about it? No, I wasn't. No, of course I wasn't. I won a world title, so I was. I guess in that respect, in my climate, but it's ridiculous. And there's 90% of the world champions since. It's certainly in Britain who should really be walking on saying they're world champions. They should be walking on saying they're good fighters, and maybe be European champions or British champions, because then that would be a better quality, and more valued again. But we got to be honest about it. I think we're all going on about too many titles nowadays, but it started, especially in the UK, when Nigel Benn, who was a genuine world-class fighter and a genuine world champion, came over after he beat DeWitt and Iran Barkley with the WBO title. That's when it really started over here, because he validated that, because he was a world-class fighter over in the UK, and then it all took off. And then we had loads of fighters who wouldn't be nowhere near a world title, getting world title shots and winning world titles. And I was fortunate to be one of those. Fortunate and unfortunate, because I go to the Welsh Ex-Boxers Association when I can, especially the annual one, and they get all their world champions up on the stage. So you'll have whoever turns up. So it'll always be me, Steve Robinson, Gavin Rees will turn up quite often. So will Enzo Mack now and again. Lee Selby will turn up as well most of the time. And the best fighter in the room, by a million miles, Colin Jones, has to sit in the audience. How embarrassed am I about that? And all the fighters with me are good fighters, by the way, and maybe better than I. But the best fighter in the room, by a stretch, who genuinely boxed and beat world-class fighters, is sat in the audience because he boxed 10 years, 12 years before me, and 20 years before the rest. It don't sit right with me, to be honest. I love a moan about boxing, and moaning about my career, my accolades is one of the easiest things to do.
Yeah, brilliant point. But you should never do yourself down there, because you've done something you've done something a lot of fighters will never even dream of doing.
No, that's why I say I think I was a good fighter. I think I could have won a European title, but and that's great. Wow, being European champion, being that level, that's phenomenal. Or maybe I would have boxed for a world title, because I think I was better than what you would have thought. And challenge for a world title, wow, against a Freitas, for instance, the one who beat me. He's a genuine world-class fighter. Well, you see what happened when I boxed him. I made a good account of myself, because I kept getting up and I kept trying, but ultimately I got battered, because there's a level between genuine world-class and people parading around at world-class, and that's just how it is. And we talk about the lightweights. They're like someone like Luke Campbell is cursed because he's in a weight where every fighter is genuine world class. Every champion, maybe Haney's still to prove that yet, but certainly Lopez and Davis are genuine world class, and Lomachenko are genuine world class fighters in any era. I'm not saying they'll be world champions in any era, but they're genuine world class in any era. That's a given.
Who do you consider to be the greatest Welsh fighter of all time?
Well, me. After I sacked myself off, it would be me. It's a funny one, because the first thing you say, you sort of bow down to Jimmy Wilde, and say for his record, it would have to be him, because the knockouts he had and the amount of fights that he had and the weight he gave away most of the times. But the problem is we don't have no proof of what he would come up against. What I mean? So I could go boxing Dominican Republic now. I get my license back, and I could have 25 wins, fighting nobody, shadow boxing. You know what I mean? There's no proof how good I am, and so you sort of have to say, Joe, I'm afraid you have to, because to stay undefeated for that long, wherever you're fighting, when you're earning good money. He wasn't earning millions, but he was earning, for a long time, but he was earning good money. That motivation, that takes a lot doing. And also, I've seen Joe out behind the scenes, and I know how good Joe was, and I don't think he showed half of what he could do. That's, there's a lot of fighters who've done that, so you can't use that, but just what I know. So, yeah.
Well, and I think people sometimes forget what how the fight between Calzaghe and Kessler really settled between two truly class fighters, and what an exceptional fight that was, especially through the first 6 rounds before Calzaghe found that other level that Kessler just couldn't match him. I mean, that, if you want to talk about, a fight of the year, which isn't like blood and guts off the floor kind of things, just like, wow, what incredible boxing. It was Calzaghe versus Kessler.
That's his best win by far for me. I think because he boxed a guy who was really at his peak, big for the weight, boxed the right fight to beat Joe. By the way, he had the right tactics to beat Joe, and that was so impressive that Joe could to change tactics in a fight at any level is very difficult to do. To totally change the tactics, but to do it at that level when you're up against a guy who hits hard in every hand, who's had the right tactics to beat you, and to change it like that takes. And that's not the corner, though his dad was great for him. That's his boxing brain. He naturally did that himself. I don't think he knew. See, Joe didn't know what he was doing half the time. Joe, most of his career, he just went through the full repertoire of his skills, and it was always good enough. Now, I used to tell Joe, and I was quite close to Joe for a little while, about you will stop every fight in 8 rounds if you don't try and stop him in 2. Because he would go out and try and knock everyone out really fast, try and over-impress, and then be involved in a scrappy, horrible fight. And some of his fights, a lot of his fights in that reign were forgotten about and are not great to watch at times. He got dragged into stuff. But he boxed a fella from Georgia in Europe. And the guy wasn't that great. But I said to Joe, that's how you should fight everyone. You use your speed, your movement, you picked him apart, and then you blasted him out there. And I think that was like 8-9 rounds, and that was what he should have done. And the Lacey fight will go down as the showpiece for Joe because he did what you can't do in sparring. He was flawless, but Lacey was made for him. But still, he still had to do what he had to do. But the Kessler fight, you're right. The Kessler fight was what made, I think for me, what made the world, must have made the world stand up and say, yeah, this kid is not just good, he's tough. He can think on his feet. He's genuine world-class fighter inside and out.
Barry, sorry, can I just jump in there just to ask about Calzaghe, because I think you made a brilliant point about the WBO in the early days. I mean, I'm 42, so I kind of remember when I was around 12, people didn't really recognize the WBO at the time. And you're right, it was Nigel Benn that kind of brought it to fruition. I always thought about, when I was looking at Calzaghe's career, that he was kind of the beneficiary of staying in Britain and being a WBO world title. Now, I know you added titles to that down the line. Where does he stand to you amongst the likes of Tony, Hopkins, and Jones? Granted that he has wins against a version of Jones and a more legitimate win against Hopkins over time when you look at that version of Hopkins. But where does he sit amongst those kind of fighters for you?
Leave me alone. Yeah. Jones was, I'd never seen a fighter like Roy Jones when he came on the scene, and anyone like that, from the Olympics, I fell in love with him, and he was just great. He was just an athlete, more than any athlete I'd ever seen. And so you have to say Roy Jones at his best beats Joe at his best. But it's not easy, because he might have knocked Joe out, he might have knocked Joe down, but Joe's made the stern stuff. He's proved that. So Joe's a difficult fight for everyone. I think Tony's a hard one, because Tony was brilliant, but Tony could be lazy, and so I don't know. I think Joe has trouble with Michael Nunn, to be honest.
Good show as well, yeah.
I do. I think it's a horrible flicky style. In the end, he would have outworked him, but Michael Nunn was a nightmare, beautiful, fleet-footed until he lost his way. But I think as all-time super middleweight, because Joe's longevity. Because Roy Jones, they won there as long as you remember. So I think Roy's real only significant win at super middleweight, if I'm right, was Tony. I think he didn't have he had better wins at middleweight and then up at Hopkins was middleweight and then up at light heavyweight he had better wins. So I think if Joe maybe goes above him as all-time super middleweights of all time. Probably, to be honest, he might be number one. But of all-time greats, Jones is above him. Of course he is. He has to be. And that's not a slight on Joe, because Joe's a great fighter. But yeah, you'd have to say that. And if they fought to their peak, you'd have to go with Roy Jones. You'd have to. As much as it pains me, and I'm a Joe Calzaghe fan. I love him. But you'd have to. Of course you would.
Cheers, Barry. Thanks for being in.
Don't challenge.
Just switch back to your career, probably arguably your title, but then a career low with an issue with a brain scan. Do you just want to divulge into that? I mean, brain scans must have been new. You know, when they, you know, what would have been 95, 96?
So yeah, what happened is you used to have when you turn pro, you have a CT scan, which is a brain scan of its own, but it's not as detailed as the MRI scan. So I think it was to do with the Michael Watson stuff that in 97 they started doing MRI scans, which are 10 times or more detailed, which is great. And then in 1998, that's the first time they had something to and first time they had 2 scans of that magnification to compare to each other, which is great for the sport, great for health. But so there was a change in my scan. So I won the world title December 97, and my brain scan was due in March of 98. Ironically, I was meant to box Julian Lawsey in Paris. I literally did the press conference and everything in Paris in the February of 98. And then it got put back. Maybe I think Frank was trying to get on Sky. Sky didn't want it, I don't think. They didn't want to pay any money for it. So but either way, it got pushed back till April, and I was happy with that. But then my brain scan came in, and there was a change in my scan. So the boxing board did what they should do, and they suspended my license, which of course is the correct thing. But obviously they didn't say anything. But you've had a problem with your scan, you can't fight. That was it. So I went. I was worried. I went to see a doctor friend of mine. I went to see a brain surgeon, one of the top ones in the country, and he said to me, "I can see what they're looking at, but as far as I'm concerned, you're under no more danger than any other boxer in the country." So from there on, I went to the boxing board with that information, saying, this brain surgeon, I don't want to say his name, I don't want to bring him into the thing, but they know who he was. He came to one of the meetings and said, "This is what he's saying. What's going on?" And then their Dr. Adrian Whiteson, who was a GP, which is obviously a great thing to be, but to be a little bit pedantic, is the jack of all trades in the medical industry, I guess, if I want to be an asshole about it. And he said no. So I got a specialist in his field saying he don't see me in any more danger than any other fighter in the UK, and then a guy who's a general practitioner saying no. Now that's for the sake of the sport, not for the sake of me. So I had an issue with that. So, and also as soon as they said no, that's when I lost my world title, and I lost my paydays. So now there's an issue. So then I went to see a barrister, and I said no. I did loads of brain scans, by the way. I dehydrated myself, did a brain scan. I did IQ tests, which I scored higher than what I thought I would have, actually, to be honest, which was surprising. And I sort of dined out on that for ages. The first thing I'd say when I meet a girl is, "No, I was a world champion," is my IQ is 128 or whatever it was, and which is probably not very high, but for for a kid from Ely in Cardiff who never went to school, I was over the moon. But anyway, so I was aggrieved by it all. And then when I went to they wouldn't give my license back, and they tried to use this Dr. Gasellis theory, and then I come back counter that saying, "But Dr. Gasellis theory was used by the British Medical Association to ban boxing in the 80s, and you and your medical team rubbish that theory. Now you're using that theory to say I can't fight. That's rubbish." But ultimately they said no. So I went back with the barrister, and in half an hour I got my license back. But that half an hour took over 18 months of my life, pretty much, and also took potentially £600,000 out of my pocket. And for the kids who didn't have a penny, literally didn't have a penny, that's life-changing money, especially in the 90s for a featherweight who can't punch. And and then I hated boxing for the first time in my life. I know I went through little ups and downs, but then I hated it. So when I took the Freitas fight, I knew I was quitting. I knew I didn't want to be in there. I was just trying to chase the money I lost. I never thought about money before. The world title fight never mentioned money. Any other fight didn't care about the money. It was all about getting titles, winning stuff. Then the money will come, hopefully. Or if it didn't, I worked all my career, by the way. So I always never thought I was going to be rich from boxing. Just thought I could get a house and trying to achieve something. But the scan thing was. I felt like I remember going there and they said, "The thing is, Barry, you're not under any danger now. There's a danger of increased senility in your later life." And I just said, "Well, that's a moral decision." I do my best not to swear here. So that's a moral decision, because what happens when I retire? Once my license is expired, what happens to me then is none of your concern or business. Otherwise, test all the ex-boxers. And then there'd be no if there was aftercare with boxing, there would be no boxing. If every ex-boxer had aftercare, years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years after boxing, there would be no boxing. Because especially, maybe more so now, but back then from the fighters from the 80s and so on, who have, irreparable damage, then there would be no boxing because it does have an effect on you. The accumulation of punches is no good for anybody. But we take that risk. Nor is heading the football, nor is running too hard on a running track, nor is riding a horse. A lot of time, you know what I mean? A lot of time, all these things are trauma to the brain. Shaking your head around is trauma to the brain, so it all has an effect. But boxing, of course, is the aim is to punch you in the face. So obviously there is a danger to it. But there was nothing wrong with me to stop me from fighting. So they gave my license back, and my reward was to fight Acelino Freitas. So they didn't do me any favors.
I was going to say, what made you take that Freitas fight then? If you ultimately hated boxing, and then the board must have been on pins at the fact they took your license away because of that, and then you went in with an absolutely devastating punch.
Oh, listen, they must have hated. And also, the week before that, I did an interview over the phone, and then it got taken off the sports right. He phoned me, the fella. The sports writer put it on the desk. The newsroom took it or the news department took it and run it. So I was like, I'm not sure if it was front page of a Sunday Times or something like that. I transcended the sports. I was like the bald Naz, and it was like a picture of me looking really like this. And they said brain damaged boxer allowed to fight on. And we got a retraction, page 13, and a little piece about this big in the end.
As always is the case these days.
Yeah. But the damage was done, so the boxing board, the panic entered. And everyone panicked. Frank Warren wasn't ringside for my fight. No, Frank Warren didn't care about me. No, I'm not having to go with Frank. Frank's been great for my career. But Frank wanted Freitas. Because Freitas was a big, good-looking kid, a big puncher. And also, Naz had just left, and he wanted Naz to box Freitas. So, he would have been ringside to watch Freitas defend his world title, or my world title, which he'd already won. But even though no one was there. And it was farmed off at the Doncaster to Johnny Rushton on one of his shows. So, Frank tried to distance himself just in case something happened to me. Because even though if something would have happened to me in the ring, it would have no reference on on the issue in my brain scan, but it would have been brought up, of course. That's the thing. The thing I had was called the cavum septum pellucidum, which is there's a soft gap in your brain here. Kids have a little soft gap here if you haven't got any children, a little soft gap in their skull, and there's two membranes, and they join together over time as you get to like one or two or something. But they reckon 1 in 10 don't quite join up, and I might have been one of those. So obviously, because they don't lock quite together with the movement of punches and moving, it moved by 0.2 of a millimeter. That's all. It wasn't a massive gap. It was just a tiny gap. There was no tear or anything like that. No mixing of the fluids. There was nothing really. There was no other damage to my brain at all. It was that. But they'd never seen it before, so they didn't know what it was. So I understand the precautions, but if it was Nazim Hamid, Joe Kazaki, Frank Bruno, Ben Eubank, all those fighters at the time, they wouldn't have took my license off me. I think I was a fighter, was a world champion. There was pressure to get off the boxing board. Spencer Oliver collapsed, the match before and almost died. Luckily, thank God he never. That also as well, in 97, that was 96, obviously, Michael Watson almost died. Thank God he never. So there was pressure with the medical association to ban boxing again. And I was the perfect thing. Here we go. He will even ban one of our world champions on boxing if he doesn't pass our stringent medical requirements. But I was a world champion with no worth to anyone.
You weren't one of the money men, as you say, like now. So you were an easy target.
Yeah, I was. And they didn't go out for me. But it was just, a gift fell on their lap, and then a gift backfired on them. And then obviously I boxed the biggest puncher pound for pound on the planet at that time. And I couldn't punch to keep him off me. And so it must have been a worry for them. And I took a hiding, by the way. My head was like this. But I took the fight because when it got offered, and you don't turn down a world title shot when you're someone like me because you don't get the opportunity again. And also, I've been a world champion. I want to be a world champion again. I genuinely believe I'm world class now because I've won it. I'm only 25, mind, when I box Freitas. Yeah. So I think I can win a world title. I remember saying in an interview, I said, can no one give me a chance? Of course he wouldn't. If I was being a pundit on that show now, I wouldn't give me a hope in hell. I just said, he can't beat me on points, which he could have, to be honest. But he's not going to beat me on points. We all know when he hits me with the first big punch, if I'm on my feet, he's not going to beat me. And it was right, because the first big punch he hit me with, I wasn't on my feet. He hit me on my ass, and that was the sort of the scene, the sort of set the scene for the rest of the fight. Really, he threw a punch, I fell over. He threw a punch, I fell over.
Yeah. What? Now happily retired, so moving on from that, and you're in the world of punditry. How did those opportunities come about? I think the first time I remember I seen you on telly was on the Box Nation sofa with I think Steve Bunce, and then later Stevie Lillis.
Yeah, I did a few little things for Sky, 97, 98, and I did one in 2000. I moved to London after my last fight. So I boxed in January 2000, moved to London with my ex-girlfriend at the time. She was like a dancer of some sort. And I haven't lived in Cardiff since. I've moved up here, and I live in Surrey now. And I've stayed at this sort of end ever since. And I don't like money. I want to spend the most I possibly can. So I live in the most expensive place you can find. And but then I was doing security for X Factor, Britain's Got Talent and stuff like that. Boxing left me. I left boxing behind. I watched boxing on the telly, but I wouldn't go to any shows so much. And and I wasn't bitter. I always you always feel a bit empty, and boxing always it's your first love, and it's a difficult thing, and you always feel sorry for yourself at times because you've seen the problem is with boxing. Very few boxers make big money, but you might have your 15 minutes of fame, or you might be relatively famous without getting huge money. And if you're earning good money, it'll go pretty quickly because you're not earning millions. But you've seen stuff. That's the problem. It's like they've opened the door, to a new life, and then they close it on you. And not on purpose. That's just what it feels like. So you almost never quite fulfilled after. That's why boxers turn to drink and drugs and get violent and do silly things, because you're looking for that buzz. Not just people calling your name, but that you're never quite fulfilled because you've seen what's out there, and you're never going to get any of that in any other capacity again. Very rarely for any other fighter. So, but anyway, Box Nation came about. Steve Bunce pretty much was looking for people who he didn't have to pay to go on his show because Box Nation didn't have any money.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to go on there, but my friend was friends with Steve, and he kept nagging me to go on. Steve didn't really want me on there. He would have had me, but didn't beg for me. But I kept saying no because I didn't want to feel good and then go back to my normal life. So, but I did in the end. And then Jim Bentley, the producer, said, "Do you want to come back for the show?" And because I only lived like 35 minutes from Hammersmith, I kept getting work like those German shows, which we do off tube in the studio, and we do we do the commentary in a sound booth rather than go to Germany. It was cheaper to get me than to get Paul Smith down, train or plane from Liverpool, put him in a hotel, pay him as well, and that's how we started. And I just went from there. And luckily enough, I don't shut up, as you found out tonight. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. It's been great.
And that's how it. And I was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And also another thing, like my boxing career, not to say no to anything.
Yeah. Okay. What happened to Box Nation when you left? Because it's hard to describe what it is now. It's the gift. It keeps on going. It's like it keeps on going, and then it goes away, and then comes back. What happened? Was it funding again, or?
Well, I think it was always a struggle for him. To be honest, I don't know the business ins and outs, and running a TV channel is hugely expensive. By the way, hugely. It should have gone to an app a long time ago. That would have saved there loads of costs, and we still be going. But I honestly think that it still could have been going. To be fair, I don't think money was invested. Money that was when it was a rare opportunity where they earn money, maybe a Canelo Khan, Golovkin, Canelo. I don't know. I could be talking about my back end. I don't feel like that money was reinvested back into the channel to help it grow. To be honest, I don't. But I don't know that. And whoever invests in that channel, Frank Warren and Bill Ives and maybe whoever else, it's their money, so they can do what they want with it. We weren't really privy to anything like that, so it was a disappointment the way it ended for us because there was no real massive warning. It was just like, you go in next month and listen, we're winding down now, so there'll be a little bit of work for you, but there's no boxing now, don't come in Saturday. It was a bit like that, so that wasn't great. But that's what businesses are. They tell you before, and you could jump ship, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know what happened to it. And it was showing Speedway the other month, and Gaelic rugby. But Premier Sports have got involved.
Yeah,
they've surely been lost. By the way, I've been subscribing for boxing since day one. I still subscribe today. To be honest, I don't know why. I just haven't never unsubscribed. So they've they've had my wages back off me. I would have thought by now.
I think it's nigh on impossible to unsubscribe from Box Nation. I see that many people trying to do it, and then they keep people on the phone, and they'll stay on for a month, and then they chuck a couple of fights in, and next thing they're subscribed 6 months down the line.
Yeah, so I'm just trying, but but look at the zone now what they're doing. I think Box Nation could, if they would have went to an app earlier, Box Nation could have been doing MMA and boxing on an app because it's two separate feeds. And they would have got the MMA log. I don't watch MMA at all, but they're fanatical, and I think it could have worked. I do. I really think it could have worked. But it's easy for me to say because I don't know the ins and outs, and I haven't got a pot to piss in, so I'm not investing no money in it. But it was great though. It was great for us boxing fans. I know we all moaned and groaned. People moaned all the time about it. Why are you showing this fight? When you showing that fight? Buncey's crap, Jonesy's crap, Linus is rubbish. This, that. Nothing's perfect. But we got to see fights we never see before, and let's be honest. And it ups Sky's game a little bit, and I think even DAZN wouldn't come. It's shown other platforms it can be done on a budget. So imagine if your budget's huge, what you could do. So yeah, it was great for boxing fans. It was great for a long time, I thought, and for me personally, it changed my life because it put me in a whole new career path, and also financially because my boxing money had long gone and I was earning a living and paying my mortgage, but now I live in a bigger house and I struggle to pay that mortgage now as well. So,
speaking of that, that's actually a good segue for a question that I had, Barry. Looking back, this is kind of totally out of left field, but looking back, at the Roy Jones Jr. Mike Tyson fight that we recently had, the tough thing with boxing for so many people is you hit a certain age and you have to find something else to do. The bread's taken out of your mouth. Yeah, I mean, do you think that there is something there, not only for the top tier fighters, but then, for some guys that were undercard fighters, not only that there could be opportunities for guys over 40, over 45. Why can't we have a dream fight of Ricky Hatton versus Prince Nassim Hamed at cruiserweight?
I hope you're joking, but it's my issue is the one thing for fighters, undercard fighters. I gotta say, they were schoolboy stars. That's what people forget. This, you can show you see some kids who didn't make it as a pro, but I can remember them for schoolboys and juniors, and they were told they were going to be world beaters. That's the thing with boxing. You're built up really quickly. I was so lucky that my family was so down to earth. They followed me, supported me, cheered me on, but not one of them ever kissed my backside. No one ever told me I was going to be great. That don't sound great. I understand. Maybe I'd have a different attitude. It might have been a better fight if they did, but always keep your feet on the ground. So you always knew, you never got too big-headed and stuff like that. But you're told you're great all the time, and then you turn pro, it don't work out for you. But your whole life is it's boxing. Say me, for instance, the world champion. I retire. On paper, I can't do anything. I mean, I can't get a job, so I got to get a job pushing trolleys in supermarkets. Nothing wrong with that job. I'm not slating that job. But when you've been a world champion, you've been on telly, thousands of people, hundreds of people calling your name, then you got to go and do that. It's soul destroying. It'll be like for me now. If my career finishes tomorrow, I'm freelance, so I'm looking for work all the time. But if I don't get no work from boxing, where do I go? I got to go back to doing security if I can get that job again, and if not, what do I do? So you sort of gamble your whole life to be a boxer. But also I tell these young kids it's a privilege as well to be able to live your dream in your 20s. But you do have to plan and do a course or do a college course or get a job or get a trade for when you finish. That's the most important thing. That's what no one tells you about that. That's it. But let's go back to your last question about fighters boxing at a later life. A Legends Tour in football is brilliant. You got all these ex-football players who can't run around anymore, but they got some brilliant skills, and you can have a laugh, and it's great. The rugby, touch rugby, 7-a-side, it's not real tackling. All these legends, they can't run as fast as they can, but they got some great tricks and a bit of speed now and again. It's great to see. Boxing, unless it's really an exhibition and a tippy tapping each other, which is fine. I don't begrudge Tyson and Roy Jones earning fortunes. They've earned fortunes. They should look after it, to be honest, but I don't begrudge them doing that. But where does it end? What happens if they go for real? And what happens if someone gets hurt? Now, you talk about the long-lasting effects of punches. The older you get, more accelerated that damage becomes. You can't recover. Your brain cells are not reproducing. It's a worry. It's a worry. Listen, I don't talk as clear as I did in my 20s. Thank God, because I talk so fast, and I talk fast now. Imagine how fast I was back then. But you listen to Mike Tyson now, not the lisp, to how he talks now, to how he talked in his 20s and 30s. There's a massive difference. And look at Roy Jones. There's a huge difference with him. Though he's a great talker, and I'm not having to go at him. It's the same with us all. And I'll be worse as I get older. So taking punches at that age is no good. Now you might not get a fatality in the ring, but in 10 years' time, the deterioration, if they have a few more fights, could be catastrophic. I don't, and I think it's a dangerous game. And if you want to ban the sport, that will help it. I think if you want people to if you start having a seniors tour, as great as it seems to see all these old legends come back and fight each other, I think we're going down a dangerous path. It's a dangerous path with having people get licenses, YouTubers and stuff like that. Not them fighting. I think people fighting is a bucket list. Great, have a fight against someone at your level. But how easy it is to get a professional license, a boxing license. In no other sport can you just walk up and be fit and get a license. If you can do 10 press-ups, you can get a boxing license.
So you were honestly concerned with
yes.
watching that fight, everything from the announcement all the way through. You're like, did you think when they announced that, you're like, oh, this is going to be a domino effect and this isn't going to end well?
Yeah, I thought, well, it opens the gates for all the other stuff. And it's happened now. Glenn McCrory, and people are delusional. I don't know Glenn McCrory. He was a good fighter. No, but nowhere near Roy Jones's level. Nowhere near that fight without and a great commentator, by the way, and still should be doing more work, I feel. But he's delusional if he thinks he's, I don't know what wants to buy that. Who wants to pay for that? And also, you're not a friend of his. If you're paying for it, you might get money in his pocket, but you're not helping him because. And my worst fear was what happened. It was successful. I didn't want someone to get hurt, but you almost want something to happen so it stops it because. It's going to go on now. You're going to get more. Tyson's going to box again. But what's going to be? Then are you going to get Riddick Bowe versus Holyfield again?
Well, I think you're safe enough, Barry, with Nazim and Ricky Hatton because I don't think either of them are going to make cruiserweight anytime soon. So I think you're safe enough there, dude.
What about Steve Robinson? He's like a man mountain. Where does it end? These guys are not like say Carl Froch versus Joe. Like Joe's been retired too long, but Carl Froch is newly retired. That's not too bad. But again, that's still a dangerous game. I'm not a lover of it.
Steve Collins was chasing Roy Jones for a wee bit there as well.
Yeah,
Collins looked good too. I mean, talking to delusional. Fucking hell.
It's mad. I think it's mad. I know it's easy. They think it's easy money on it, but put a head guards on them and do it that way. I don't mind that. I don't mind the white collar stuff. I don't mind the YouTube boxing. The YouTube boxing is great. Good luck to them. They're earning loads. I'm just jealous they can earn so much money. That's the truth. I don't think they should be able to get professional licenses. I think they should.
Even if you put headgears on them, mate, you're still taking headshots and stuff, and it still rattles the brain. So it's really.
For me though, for the sake of boxing's reputation, people can do what they want to do. People can go and take drugs, and in Japan you can go lay under the table and a girl defecates all over the table. Apparently, and allegedly, I don't know anything about that. But no, what I mean is people do all sorts of things. People do all sorts of things, and that's up to them. But to distinguish it from professional boxing, make it clear this is not professional boxing.
Yeah, I agree.
The two ex-professional fighters doing their own thing. That's the way I would like Nate Robinson versus that fella Logan Paul. That was a professional fight.
Mate, that was one of the knockouts of the year. Technically, it's a pro fight, but it was a hell of a knockout. I mean, they were absolute. That Nate Robinson, I think a 15-year-old amateur beat him, but that's technically a pro fight, as you say.
Well, I worked on Freddie Flintoff. I commentated on Freddie Flintoff versus the American journeyman he boxed, and like it was embarrassing. I'm not going to go with Freddie. Good luck to you, but everyone involved in that, including me. I had to do my job. I got to work. I got to talk. Yeah. But everyone involved, and I put myself included. hang your heads in shame, because that's not for Fred. Good luck to you, Fred. You did the best he could do. He tried his hardest, and he was in a real fight. But in his mind, but for the sport, that don't help the sport grow. And all this YouTube stuff, I don't think that helps the sport grow. No, I don't dislike it, but I mean, all these eyes watching it, they're not watching it, they're watching him. Because next week he'll go off and he'll do karate, and they'll all watch karate next week. They won't follow boxing; they'll just follow him whatever he does, because that's and understandably. So I don't see it. It's a quick fix. It's a quick hit for promoters, for these YouTubers. A quick hit. They go in, grab a load of money, get out. I understand that, but for the sport's health, I don't see it. Ryan Garcia is different because he's a boxer who has a massive social media following. So, but he's a boxer. He's always been a boxer. So
let me play devil's advocate though on this, because and I know you're talking a few rare examples in the sport though, and it's tough to and I think it's a perfect example because you're trying to figure out, well, when should somebody have told him to stop? And that's Bernard Hopkins. One fight before Joe Smith Jr. is knocking him out of the ring. I believe he was schooling Beirut Shumanov and even putting him on his ass late. And it's tough. It's really difficult. And I think that's why the creation of the medical battery test, maybe shoring them up, is going to be the best way to figure out who can and can't be in the ring, because you wouldn't want to tell a George Foreman, a Bernard Hopkins, and Archie Moore that they couldn't have entered a ring because of their age, because they were totally capable, proved by their victories at that advanced age.
You will get the exceptions. They're exceptional athletes. They're exceptional fighters. You will get that. Of course you will. But and you always will. But there's always a fear with them. But you always get it. Actually, all these people, they go on and does your Walcott one more time later on in his life. But they're superstars and they're super athletes. But the rule. But I didn't know. Roy Jones is. You can see visibly. He's nowhere near what he was. I've seen it while he was still boxing active pros. Or the deterioration, how bad he's become. Mike Tyson, you hear him, you see him. He's nowhere near he's not as sharp as he was back a long time ago. Because the damage. Because they've taken a lot of damage for their sport, and they've earned every penny they've had, and they've earned their status of legends. These are. I'm talking about guys. They're so much better than me. It's like we do the different sport. So I understand who I'm talking about. They're gods to me, but no, they shouldn't be getting professional license. No, I don't think they should. And I understand if you pass the medical requirements, but at some point, I remember I went to get my boxing license in '92, professional boxing license '92. So I'm a European silver medalist. I Welsh champion a few times. I've been won loads of different titles. I was nervous about because I was 18. I thought they were going to say no. That's what it should be. It shouldn't just be because I passed the medical test and my eyesight's okay. It shouldn't have been because of that. It has to be more. Where's your experience and and what have you done and the damage you've had and all that sort of stuff. So all these things should come into play.
Do you mean maybe like a driving test? Like show us a jab, show us a straight from your backhand, show us a hook.
Well, I think before that was never needed because everyone who turned pro had an amateur background, so you knew that they could box.
Well, you used to be able to fight more when we were younger too.
Yeah, that's true. To whatever level you're at, you knew you could fight. Not everyone's turning pro to be a world champion, of course, and not everyone's going to be. But I just mean that. No, and I don't think get scare Roy Jones, stand up Roy Jones and show us your full combination. You just look at Roy, go, listen, Roy, you've had a long career, mate, and and they've seen him get knocked out by Enzo Maccarinelli, and Enzo, who wasn't nowhere near as good as he used to be, by the way, who could still keep whack, and you could see Mike. Look at Mike Tyson 15 years ago. Shouldn't have been boxing. So the Mike Tyson today definitely shouldn't be boxing, even though he's boxing. I understand he's boxing a Roy Jones, but he can also punch. This might be my personal preference, and people might think I'm full of shit. And what am I talking about? And I didn't watch it, by the way, so it might have been great. I don't know. I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to be party to what it was. Because I don't want to. Because what if I enjoyed it? I want to watch it again. I don't want to see that. I love boxing. I love it enough to say, to discredit my achievements. That's how much I love my sport. So this is not to have a dig at anyone. This is not to try and salt on my high horse. I love my sport, and it's a great sport that constantly kicks itself in the face. It's the slut of sports, boxing. That's exactly what it is. It's the slut of sports. Yeah. and but it could be so beautiful. It really could. And when it's good, there's nothing better. But all these things don't help it, in my view. Maybe I'm old man now, and I'm past my. I know, and my views outdated, but that's my opinion.
Well, we ask you because we can have our opinions from the sidelines, but I've also never been staring down Popo as he's dropping combinations on my head. So it's definitely a more valid viewpoint than I have. Because the point where we come from, I guess, might be from romanticizing these fighters that we grew up with, that we love so much, and we want them in some manner, if it is safe, to be able to make a living doing what they love, because we don't want anyone to have bread taken out of their mouth. That I think that's one of those it's a touchy subject, it really, when it comes to if someone can make a living or not, and we worry. But I mean, that you make a great point as far as it could have a heck of a domino effect and make it so we don't even get to have the undercard fighters, make it so it's not even worthwhile because the cost of insurance, blah 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 blah. It eliminates boxing at the end of the day. I could see that happen.
But it's good. It's open now. It's happening. It's going to happen often because they did a clever thing. They had they made it entertaining. They had Snoop Dogg commentating, I heard, and they have singers and rappers there or whatever. They had the whole entertainment thing. So it'll appeal to the different demographic, and it also appeal to the older fans who want to see their old time heroes box again. You got YouTube for that. Go and watch when they were good, not when they're no good. Yeah. For me, I don't see, but it's opened up now. And also, I think I heard the pay-per-view did very well. So
that's $1 million buys.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. It's a money maker for everyone. That's the problem. And until there's a fatality in the ring, it'll keep going. It's just I'm moaning about it. I don't know. Actually, why did I moan about it? I wasted literally 40 minutes of your time talking about stuff that I know is going to continue. To be honest, because if it does well, if it makes money, as we know, especially in boxing, if it makes money, it makes sense, and it'll happen. Well, look, listen, Floyd Mayweather versus McGregor was the biggest start of it. That was the worst start of it for me. That was just ridiculous. That was what happened there. You get the 50-0 boxing a guy who's never boxed before. It's like that's not a slight McGregor. He's a phenomenal athlete and great in his field. But let's be honest, it was a sparring session, and and anyone who's boxed at a good level, who's good, who's sparring with people not as good as them, exactly what that is. And and they took so much money out of it. And I don't begrudge him any money. Good luck to him. But it opened up. It's opened up now. It's opened up the door to all sorts of stuff, and
and you can argue that Sky, BT, any sort of TV channels are kind of to blame for it as well by picking these sort of fights up and giving them publicity. I mean, you're bouncing around now, Channel 5, Sky, BT, when the Box Nation door shut. You seem now not to feature as much on BT, and I know you are freelance. Is there something that went on there? Because I know that every time we saw you on BT, and from, say, the hardcore boxing fans who, listen to the commentary, the feedback was always really good, and it still is now.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think the Fury, while I don't know, BT won't use me again. That's the truth. Pretty sure. Certainly, whilst there's a producer there, he doesn't want to use me ever again, and that's just how it is. And I don't really know what I did wrong exactly, or if I did anything wrong, or whether he just preferred somebody else. And that happens. You've got to take it as it is, But I didn't. And as much as I want to be on there doing everything, it is what it is. You just got to take it like that. No, I can't be as arrogant to think that they should have me on. I demand they use me all the time. It's just that nobody told me. That was my only issue. Is nobody told me. I just literally just didn't get a phone call, and then I had to chase them, and they wouldn't give me the one person wouldn't give me a proper answer. And then in the end, I forced an answer on him, and he sort of made out that text ended the relationship. So it was a bit disappointing like that. And I don't know whether this guy was doing work for Sky, but but listen, I don't want to slag BT off. BT were a great company to work for. Yeah. And the people I worked with, the talent, they call it talent, the people on screen. They're not, you might think they're talented, but that's what they call you, unfortunately. But they're friends of mine, like Buncey, and I've known Buncey for a long time now, and John Raw, and I've worked with John quite close, and Paul Dempsey's a lovely guy. Richie Woodall is possibly the nicest guy, in the sport. He's a lovely man. So, I don't know David Hay, but he seems like a nice fella, but I don't really know him, so I don't want to say he's nice or not nice. I don't know, but it was good time. I had good fun, and they looked after me when I worked for them, and I couldn't say a bad word about them, except for not telling me they didn't want it, that they got rid of me. That was the only thing. So you feel sorry for yourself. No one likes rejection. That's the truth. And Sky have been good to me. The Sky have given me as much work as they can give me with the pandemic going on. I think I'd be doing more for them. I wouldn't be taking the job of Matt Macklin, but I think I'd be doing more work for them. But the pandemic hit, and obviously I'm a freelancer, and that's just an extra expense they don't need to spend. But they've given me as much work as they can, so I appreciated it. But I need more work. So if anyone wants a grass cut, get in contact.
Mate, we do big numbers on this podcast, so I'm sure we can put anything forward if anything comes through. Last couple of questions. One question we ask every guest is we've got, I think, the fight we all want to see this year. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. How do you see it going?
I've been Fury for a long time. Though I do have to say, when Fury first came on the scene, I would have bet my house on David Price knocking him out. It's crazy, isn't it? You look so far back then, I would have put my money on Price all day long. But he's adapted. He's such a natural boxer and thinks so good on his feet. He gives you opportunities, like most Mavericks do. They give you opportunities to catch him. But I think he can win in so many different ways, where Joshua has to go through him. Joshua has to be the Joshua of old, really, before Ruiz, where he has. I don't think he can outbox Fury. So you never know. Things can surprise you. I didn't think Fury could go in and dominate and knock out Wilder the way he did. But you gotta go right through him. He punches in nice straight lines. He punches inside his body frame really well. Does Joshua? So those things will work, because Fury might flick a jab out a little bit wide and he can go right through the guard. But you got to step on Fury. I think you got to get inside him and make him work, and hopefully catch him close. And then Joshua's a good finisher. But I massively favour Fury. And I think he could stop Joshua as well, to be honest. I know he's not a one-punch finisher, but I think he can make Joshua work so hard chasing him. And I think he'd have to go back a little bit, revert back to the move in there, Fury. But the spinning on the pivot on the front, everyone knows I love a pivot. The pivot on the front foot, making Joshua look for him all the time. That's hard. Missing when you're a big fella, it drains your energy. So I would fancy Fury and maybe a late stoppage, if not points. But it's the fight I want to see, and it's a massive, huge fight. I don't think it's the most exciting fight in boxing that can be made, but it's the biggest fight by a million miles.
I agree. And the last one, it's from one of the listeners now, Michael Thompson, who's paid £5 in a super chat to submit this question. And he says, ask Barry about all the sports science and nutritionist stuff, and if you think it's valid compared to the old days about how fighters used to essentially make weight, and how the differences from back then and now.
I gotta be careful. I slagged off CrossFit like about 7 years ago, and I got so much grief for it. And all I meant was that all these things, nutrition, new ways of training, are fantastic. They're great, and they can only help you and better you. Of course they can. Eating the right foods and making the weight comfortable is got to be a good thing, and not so much for your endurance in the ring, but also for your protection as well. About so your brain, the fluid from your brain's not going out, so it's not like a pee in a tin can, so you're less likely to get brain damage and stuff like that. But none of this can be replaced by pure basic boxing training. That has to be the first and foremost, and everything else has to be an add-on. I think nutrition's great. I don't see fighters as fitter, to be honest. I think everyone looks cosmetically better. That's what everyone looks like. Everyone looks in great shape now, where they never used to before. But because I think a layer of fat's not a bad thing to burn up when you need something to burn up, don't you? You don't want, you see all those big, massive, muscly guys. Once the oxygen gets in there, they're punching like they're underwater. So. But I think it's a good thing. It's got to be a good thing. But I don't see anyone any fitter. You see some of these 15 round. You watch, Yaki Lopez and Matthew Saeed Mohammed. You watch them go help for leather twice. And you can't tell me there's fitter fighters than that at light heavyweight now today. So who could box at that pace and that punishment with with those little tiny gloves. So it's I don't see anyone. I don't see fighters any better than they were before, because skill is skill, and I don't see them any fitter, but they look better. And also, I think they probably it's better for you when you retire, because you're probably not having the damn like me now. Like I didn't have a long career, but you might hear it actually.
Oh,
yeah, that's my shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can hang me on a tree at night. That's why I sleep like that every night. You can hang me on a tree and leave me there. And then, so the damage, because you didn't do the right techniques and warming down, didn't eat the right food. You just as an amateur, you just sweated the water out until you were dehydrated and made the weight. That was how it was. So they know a lot more now. That's a good thing. So they're safer. I think that's important. Yeah, but that's about it. I don't think it makes. Maybe it does make you fitter, but maybe everyone else is fitter and it evens out. I don't think it does, to be honest. Some of the pace the fighters would fight at 15 rounds, I can't see some of these fighters doing that today. Maybe what do I know?
And just one final one, actually. Did you ever think about bringing dusting off the gloves when Prince Patel gave it the big one on the Box Nation couch, or was that one of them that if Sky would have come offering the millions, you would have taken that?
What's that? Oh, to fight him?
Oh, Prince Patel, yeah.
Oh no, you know what? Like
Cougs wants a shot as well.
I didn't, because I don't respect him now. Obviously, the biggest thing that I don't like about him, not what he said, because he's just a young kid trying to make a name for himself. He's an idiot, I know that, but trying to make a name for himself, and he thought that was the way to do it. But he picked the wrong guy, because I'm not massively famous. I'm not a guy who goes around bragging himself, like saying how good he is. And in my little world there at Box Nation, I think I was relatively liked. So, I mean, I don't like saying that. I can make me feel like a wanker, but you pick an arrogant guy who's rich and famous and better than me, wouldn't you? Like Carl Froch. I like Carl Froch, by the way, but Carl Froch, he loves. Carl loves himself. He knows he was good, and he tells you he was good, and so do it to him. That'll make a name for yourself. Carl would squat you as well at the same time, but either way. So I wasn't angry at him when it was happening. I thought, what's going on here? This is weird. After the show, I did say a few things in off air, but nothing major. The biggest heartbreak for me was that I'm attached to him forever. You know what I mean? And for a guy who doesn't like, I never had no ring walk music. I didn't wear a dressing gown. I didn't call publicity. My whole career was wrong. I didn't care about that. I didn't want to be famous, or I didn't want to be known. I know it's ironic that I do work on TV, but I'm not a massive name, and I don't ever slag myself out to do it. I just want to work. I love boxing, and being involved in any capacity is great for me. And I know, and if I can earn more money from this and doing other jobs, I'll do this, of course. But I don't want to be. So that was like being attached to someone like him, who's not a good fighter. He's not rubbish, but he's not a good fighter. And I'm always tagged with him. Not so much now, but this always gets brought up, and I'm not gonna go with you, because I'm at peace with it now. But if you would have asked me this 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been so happy with it.
Yeah, of course.
Now it doesn't matter, because the kid's being beaten, humiliated. But the worry was he goes on to be a good fighter, and he was proved right. That was the thing. But I think he was just lost. The kid's lost. To be fair to Andy Ayling, who was Frank Warren's right hand man, Andy didn't want nothing to do with him after that. And I think that was the nail. I think that's what done it with Warren and stuff. And so I like that a little bit. But yeah, he tried to make a name for himself and just end up meshing up his career, really, didn't he?
Yeah, completely backfired.
But don't feel sorry for him.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, I thought you were kind when you called him an idiot. I mean, the guy's a complete arsehole. But I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the box. I think he's trying to make a name for himself and didn't realise and thought just slagging people off. But what really done him is once Coog and Cassius stopped using him for iFilm London, that was his platform. Once he stopped using him, he was done. Well, he went on a tour of Eastern Europe, picking up all these fancy belts, didn't he? Knocking out these 1-40 Hungarians and Bulgarians and stuff. And
yeah, well, and he's not the only fighter who's done that, to be fair. But And what you do you can kid yourself. It's like being a really good football. It's like I play park football. So I can't play. I'm useless at football, but I play park football sometimes. And you get someone who turns like vets football. You get someone who turns up who's like 22, and is pretty good. So why would you want to play with at this level? Because you're really good at this level, but it's a false goodness, isn't it? It's like you want to challenge yourself. You know what I mean? You want to challenge yourself to see how good you really are, not just keep going lower than your level so you look brilliant.
Yeah.
All the time. And that's sort of what Patel's doing. He's boxing people below him, so he looks fantastic, but in reality, he's not. That's the shame. Yeah, that's a shame. But anyway, good luck to the kid. Like I don't wish good luck to him at all. But
Yeah, I get your point.
Yeah.
Well, there is talk that he has since apologised. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but
no,
I don't know
so much to me. But that's not. He's not apologising to me. He's apologising for what's happened to him. He wants to get relevant again and get back and stuff. And I don't care if he goes on to be the best fighter on the planet. Good luck to him. I won't shed a tear anymore about that. But if he doesn't, I won't shed a tear about that either. And I'm not going to help him. And I'm not going to validate his apology. That's his. That's you got to do. You did what you did. And someone text me on Twitter saying, "Come on, give him a break now." He said sorry. He's man enough to say sorry, but he can't reverse what he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you go murder my whole family and say sorry 10 years later. I go, okay, fair enough. Said sorry. Like at least you've repented. I know it's not the same thing, of course. I like to exaggerate, but that's what it is. But either way, he didn't win a world title, did he? That's the bottom line.
He did not. And finishing on that note, I just want to say what an absolute pleasure it has been, Barry. I mean, I think I told you 15 minutes usually we do with guests, 20 minutes tops. And I think we've done the best part of an hour and 20 minutes. But it's been a brilliant, brilliant listen. And I want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast. The reaction already has been excellent. And I've no doubt through the week we'll get a lot of positivity as well.
No, thanks for having me. Sorry, I don't shut up. See, I live in a house. I got 2 kids and my missus, and no one lets me speak. So no one listens to me. So I get some poor guys who are muted on a conference call, and I get to wail away. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But thanks.
Mate, listen, we're known for therapy as well, so if just call in anytime you want, talk away.
Yeah.
You're always welcome.
We're brothers in arms there. How do you think we got to 400 episodes? We're all fucking shut up at home. That's why we're on here every Sunday night.
Every Sunday night we're on here talking to the boys just to vent after like a week of frustration with the woman,
So how many of you do this then together?
It varies each week.
Half dozen plus, give or
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that it started, and it's always been a show for fans just to BS about boxing. Not exactly worrying about if there were censors listening or if anyone cares about the opinions. It's just what guys think about boxing if they're sitting around on their couches and or women. Don't forget the ladies. Yeah, as they said in Congress, amen and a women apparently.
Or how they identify. We don't know that yet.
So yeah, but hey, thanks for coming on, and maybe next time we'll talk to you about all the times that Carl Froch has talked to you about being the best Carl Froch in the era of Carl Froch.
Do you know, I've only met Cal, but I worked with Cal a couple of weeks ago on the weigh-in show for Pulev and Joshua. That's the first time I met him. To be honest,
you'll have to let us know about that next time. That's he seems like a character, so that should be a story in itself.
No worries. Listen, thank you very much for having me on. I've actually quite enjoyed myself. Yeah, it's been good fun and great questions as well. And
it was a blast, and the people enjoyed it. The chat's just blowing up. So thanks a lot, Barry. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks, fellas. You take care.
You too.
All the best, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, Dad. That was brilliant. That absolutely.
All
brilliant.
right. That was Barry Jones. That was a fantastic interview. And in this era of where there's no fights, I think y'all had some fights planned over there that ended up getting knocked out because of COVID. And you have new restrictions. So we're just kind of sitting on a dead schedule right now. So talk about a treat in the middle of a freaking wasteland of boxing right now. So there were a couple of decent fights on the undercard of Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell. the fight between Rene Alvarado and Roger Gutierrez is one of the is definitely probably the clubhouse leader for fight of the year at this point in time, with Gutierrez getting 3 knockdowns, a couple early, 1 late, bookending it. And in between, with Alvarado boxing fantastically, bringing the fight to him at the necessary times. Had a ball on that one. Gutierrez, it was a rematch. He pulled it out with that knockdown late. All cards, 113 to 112. Rob, welcome to the show, man. What were your thoughts on that corker of a fight?
Oh, well, of course, I got a very clear stream of it on my 199 a month DAZN deal.
199, you fucking jumped the
dice. Yeah, it was a good fight. I kind of have a feeling sometimes when a fella carries the power. I didn't see the first fight of this, and if I did, I can't remember it. So I know this was a rematch, wasn't it? I think it was a rematch, but I didn't see the first one. But I thought if you can punch you drop a guy so early, then you always have a tendency to still drop him later in the fight, even if the fight's not going your way. So in the way, Alvarado was coming back into it and having his say, and it was a cracking fight, by the way, all action. But I just had a feeling he was going to get done again towards the later stages of the fight, and that proved to be the case. That just got a nagging feeling when I was watching it that he dropped him so early. And although he was giving up ground in the fight and Alvarado was closing distance better, I thought he was going to get a chance again later on. And he did, but nothing wrong with the fight. And if that's a rematch, I'd watch the third in the trilogy to see where it goes.
Absolutely. If they want to do that again, sign me up. That's a fantastic fight. It's one of those fights that you'd like to see on, help sell a pay-per-view undercard, because that was killer. Andy, did you get a chance to check this one out?
I caught some of it, mate. I was more eyes on, waiting for the light flyweight fight. I've got eyes in that division at the minute. It's red hot. Between that bantamweight and at this point 135. And these are the divisions I'm really going to keep my eye on just now. Felix Alvarado, the brother, pulled out a 10 round stoppage against DJ Creel. Creel was a IBF minimum weight champion, actually, and it just shows you how fine the margins are, actually, because he claimed he couldn't make 105 anymore, so he had to move up to 108. So there's 3 pounds of difference here. And I thought that, even moving up, I thought the size difference was still telling that Alvarado was a bigger guy. He had nothing really, Creel really, to kind of try and turn the tide. And I thought he basically stayed in there a wee bit too long, took a bit of a beating. And to be honest, if he's saying he can't make minimum weight anymore than that, I don't think his ceiling's very, very good at this point in time. I think he maybe need lesser routes, maybe IBO titles and stuff like that. But if he can make 105 again, I would probably suggest that he tries everything he can to do it, because I think the bigger guys, especially the champs, which Alvarado is, big dude, kind of broke him down in the end and stuff. So I think he'd just rethink what he's going to be doing for his future, I think.
That's there's something about those Alvarado brothers that I really like, is they're lanky fighters, and they know how to close their they know how to box at distance and then close well. Both ends. Even the losing effort, the other brother put on a great show. I don't know where either one of them goes from here. Honestly, hopefully a rematch for the older brother. When you can't, the people that can make 105 is pretty incredible, actually. It's funny you bring that up. I was thinking about it. Aren't there typically only like 100, give or take, fighters that are actually listed at BoxRec at minimum weight at any given time?
I've never really checked that one out, mate, to be honest with you. But what I will say is anything between 105 and potentially, I think 112 is a bit of a push, but anything between 105 and 108, you'll get guys fluctuating between those two weights, kind of like either between title fights, keep busy fights and stuff. So the numbers would definitely fluctuate in that. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know how many pro fighters there is really about that weight, but you think guys like Nicaragua, especially kind of about South America and that, Japan, parts of Africa, We all these kind of weird guys kind of emanate from that. I mean, how many Brits and Yanks have we got, and Irish guys, and we had Paddy Barnes there for a bit. I forget the Scottish guys. I think his name was Ross Murray actually. The one Aussie, who was the one that went to America there? He fought Jesse Rodriguez. Not Jesse Rodriguez. He fought what's his name? The flyweight kid, Martinez. Harris, G. Harris. I think he can fluctuate between 108 and 112 actually, to be honest with you. So yeah, but as for numbers, I don't know. But it says there's a lot of talent between 105 and 108, but 108 is kind of really stacking up at this point. And for you, Matty, you Americans should be keeping an eye out for the guy I mentioned before, actually, Jesse Rodriguez for Robert Garcia's gym. That guy's champion waiting.
It's really interesting watching some of those smaller weights, and I haven't been able to tune in as much as I used to. I don't have as many stream connections as I had. I'm not quite as capable of finding fights in Thailand at 3 o'clock in the morning as I once was. So you'll have to cue me back in on a bit of that. I'll tell you what's interesting about Krill. This is just a little bit of an odd take on this. Is you very rarely see minimum weight fighters from first world countries.
Why do you think that is, Matty?
Because
malnourishment.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say that because if you look at the British rankings, for example, at flyweight I'll go back to the 50s. You could name at least 20 to 30 guys for all of Britain. Nowadays, you're lucky to even fill out the division with top 10 names. And
Ronnie Corbett.
Yeah, Ronnie Corbett, aye. Fucking Jockey Wilson. You can actually, but it says it's years. See, once you go up to about the mid 60s, late 60s, early 70s and stuff, the numbers of the flyweights in our country actually reduced, as you say, purely because of malnutrition. You have big families and stuff like that, not a lot of income, meals, food was scarce and stuff. Rationing still happening in the 50s and that as well, food stamps.
What?
Aye, food stamps. Aye, rationing.
Yeah,
yeah.
When I was a kid, I kind of missed that. There on that last part is this is all I can say about it. I think maybe not me. I don't know what the hell is going to go on here, but those in the developed nations who lead the world are going to have to take a look at the sport of boxing and the minimum weight class, and they're going to have to take a look at introducing markets and globalization to third world countries, and you got a choice. You can either bring markets to countries or you can have minimum weight. You guys decide. But the people that pull the strings in the world, choose carefully. This is really entertaining for us. Are you sure you really want to feed all these people? I don't know. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? No Manny Pacquiao hitting the scales with rocks in his shoes. Do we really want to go that route? I don't know. What's your take, Steve?
I'm not really sure I have a take on that, to be honest with you.
We're buying COVID vaccines for the poor countries just now. We're not dishing them out there, so.
He's on a good stuff tonight, Matty. Baby.
No. I hope you guys understand how tongue-in-cheek that is, and when it comes, because that really is what happens when people are introduced to the supply chain, and they start being able to diversify their diet, and they're not looking for shit in the woods every day. You tend to be able to grow taller and stronger faster. It's an amazing thing.
All I can say is there's not much malnourishment going on around where I live.
I think
Amen,
you're going to have.
Amen.
I think you're going to have trouble getting a pickup behind the slogan "Don't feed the hungry" as well, Matty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's hard one to sell, but
I'm just saying, just be prepared to get rid of minimum weight, because damn it, those people are becoming freer, and it's going to screw your entertainment.
I thought you said minimum wage, not minimum wage.
No. Get rid of we need to get rid of minimum wage, but that's a different discussion.
In this day and age, when you've got WBC trying to bring in another kind of money laundering division, shall we say, bridger weight and stuff, there is evidence that you could probably merge divisions. For example, minimum weight and light flyweight, you could maybe merge those two. You could probably merge or cut out maybe super featherweight maybe, and maybe force guys up to 135 and some down to 126 maybe. I think some of the kind of stopgap divisions in between, like say the old original 8, maybe need to be identified, maybe some scored out and stuff. I think as you go up in heavyweights divisions, kind of like light heavyweight to cruiserweight. I get it. There's a big shouting difference, big weight differences and stuff like that. But there is, what is it, 18, 19 divisions now. So yeah, I think we need to start looking at kind of like cutting down a wee bit. But you are going to get that cry for safety, as Barry was talking about in that as well, because you start getting guys cutting weight too much. You end up having to kind of either force them up, or they're trying to cut themselves, drain themselves, kill themselves, trying to make the weight below. So you just never know.
Yeah. So anyway, there was your ADD detour of the day. But let's hop over and Andy, why don't you just carry this on this, because I know this is your beloved weight division. We follow this guy for over a decade now, which is shocking. But what a fantastic fight between Ioka and Tanaka. 3 great knockdowns from Ioka, who's always in balance, always in place to punch. And Tanaka saved by the referee because he was out on his feet in a way I have rarely seen. What a freaking great shot, man.
It was a great shot, mate. He couldn't have missed that left hook the entire fight. I'll just jump to the stoppage here, but that referee should be commended as to how he handled that entire fight. And that, I mean, the stoppage, he was bang on point, mate. He was in there straight away, catching the guy before he fell over. Incredible fight. And again, it's just another reminder that we're just too soon sometimes with the kind of like the end of year, awards and stuff. The Japanese cars do tend to kind of produce. It's been quite, quiet this year, obviously for natural reasons with the pandemic and that, but Tanaka, I did think he has shown improvements in the past in his defence and stuff, but he's fighting a very, very experienced fighter. I mean, I think he fought the unification fight with Yagashi in something like his 9th pro fight and stuff at minimum weight. He's went up through light flyweight, super flyweight, and that. I mean, look, to be honest, I'm going to make the call right now. If you look at his record, Kazuto Aiko is 26-2. He's something like 18-2 in world title fights across 4 weight divisions. That those stats are crazy. That's Hall of Fame stats. So there's mentalities in that, and especially in Japan anyway. It doesn't seem to be like it's about kind of defending the belt and that. It seems to be a wee bit more about honour and actually kind of like proving themselves in that. And Ioka, Tanaka to another extent as well. He's been up from flyweight to challenge Ioka. So I don't know, maybe the opportunities in that because of travel and that, he's like, okay, I'll take that fight. It was a natural fight to probably happen, that locally at least. Both are kind of like popular guys, popular fighters and stuff. But Tanaka, to me, he's just come out of that fight there. Actually, he's been absolutely spot on since winning the Nietes fight. Sorry, he's come back there. He's picked up the belt and he's beat Tanaka. And I would like to see a rematch with Donny Nietes if possible. Or if no, then definitely the winner Gonzalez against Estrada. That fight I believe is happening in February, I think actually. So hopefully the winner of that fight gets made against Ioka. But yeah, great fight. Ioka just another thing as well as I did think is a lot of Tanaka's shots I thought were actually blocked by Ioka. I thought he just really kind of old manned them really. As I say, Tanaka has shown improvements in his defensive abilities and that, but there is times he just goes into fights and he just goes to war. And he just met a better technician, actually, a far more better rounded technician. And as I say, took him apart play by play, and just could not miss with that left hook. He was getting tagged all the time with some great shots. Tanaka was, you could see it in the 4th round that you could see in the 4th round onwards that Tanaka was getting dragged into more kind of warrior attrition. And as you say, that left hook just had Tanaka collapse into the ref's arms. And this is a fantastic performance by the veteran. And hopefully, I say, big fights for him next. Estrada, Gonzalez, Donny Nietes, any of those fighters would do me next, please. And this is a shout out as well to on the undercard, Diego Higa. He looked absolutely awful in his last fight. Well, this time around about who a lot of people, even Asian boxing on Twitter, and that had money on Kobayashi to beat Higa purely off his last performance. And he was up for this one and he smashed his opponent out within 5 rounds and stuff. So maybe it's a wee return to form for Diego Higa. We'll wait and see what happens with his next opponent and stuff. But he'd certainly looked like he was better. He was back to his better ways rather than what he looked like in his last fight, shall we say?
And I can't remember for the life of me who the referee in that fight was, but you talk about an exceptional job, and he picked the right time. That fight ended not a moment too soon, not a moment too early. It was what it was. Can't remember who it was, but hats off. That was an excellent job by the ref in that fight. I don't remember being bothered by his call at all during it too. So a rarity in a world title fight. But and feel free, anyone you guys, to jump in on this one, because this is a really solid kind of way to segue into something interesting to talk about for what we might have upcoming, well, what we know is upcoming and what could follow. We are basically coming to an end of an era of when we saw these guys going up in, minimum weight, light flyweight, on up to 115, 118. And with the Estrada and Gonzalez rematch coming up, which we've been waiting for 8 years now, something like that. But it really is kind of almost a bookend to a fantastic era. And I honestly think, and I, believe it or not, as an American, I think the only place to do it correctly would be for New Year's Eve of next year for the winner of the Estrada Gonzalez rematch to fight Ioka in Tokyo on New Year's. That's my opinion. I don't know what you guys think of that, but that would be my boxing wish list or one thing on it.
Fair shout, because Gonzalez has got that Japanese connection. I'll just let the lads jump in there.
Yeah, he was with Honda.
Yeah.
I'll jump in quickly, Matty, not specifically on that point, but back to Tanaka against Ioka. I used to watch the lower weight fights all the time, light flyweights, super flyweights, the Japanese stuff. I used to enjoy it, but I haven't been keeping up on it over the last few years. That said, I was interested in this fight because of Tanaka trying to make history, Ioka, the experienced champion. I think that Tanaka seemed so hell-bent on making history, whatever the price, it was a heavy price that he paid. He just wanted to get those belts and sort of make history, and it looked at the detriment of some of his development. His
experience gap, total experience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, Andy mentioned the left hook. He couldn't miss that left hook, and he looked like someone who's saying, hang on, I'm getting hit with a left hook here. What am I supposed to do? And he just kept going down, and Ioka was so experienced. He said, his defense is open. I can land the left hook. I'll just keep throwing it all the time. And shout out to the referee. I think he was called Michiaki Somaya. He called it absolutely spot on, because when he grabbed Tanaka at first, I thought, oh, what's going on here? And then Tanaka, I can't remember now because it's been a few weeks, but he seemed like his legs went, and the referee, you immediately knew the referee had made an excellent call. But fair play to Ioka. I've been impressed with him in the past, and Tanaka looked like someone who was just desperate to race ahead and win those titles, catch up with Inoue, do something like that, and he paid a price. He'll come back stronger, and I think he can still make the history. He's got so many fights left, but he's going to have to learn from that. Ioka put a bit of a school in as the fight went on. I thought a bit of a beating.
It was, well, I'll tell you what really basically at a certain point in that fight when Tanaka was coming forward, Ioka realized that he could take his best heat, and there was a certain point where Ioka knew it and Tanaka didn't figure it out until he woke up, a few minutes after the fight had ended, that he was a smaller guy who had been smoking little dudes, who was coming up a guy who was actually naturally bigger and probably, is sucking down and quite a bit. I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know what you think, Ozzy, but I'm guessing that Ioka probably walks around at super lightweight, maybe even lightweight-ish.
I'm not a clue, to be honest, mate. It's not. Probably for me, it's not something that massively. Apart from when fights, I say, on the mainstream channels for what. I mean, I actually watched this enough. We were talking about it with Barry Jones on Box Nation. It's one of the fights they randomly plucked out of thin air, and it went down. Everyone was delighted with it. I can't. I mean, I remember saying, like, I don't really know much about these two whatsoever. But I thought Ioka looked huge compared to Tanaka. And look, I praised Tanaka for coming up through the weights, but he just seemed to be. It kind of seemed a step too far, if anything. And we've always said it previously, particularly at these little weights, a couple of pounds is massive. It's not like, going up from, say, 168 and then you fight a catch weight at 171 or something like that, or 170. £2 from 115 to 113 or 115 going to 118 at bantamweight is massive. Look at the difference between Higa from when he was making, was it Superfly he was making, or was he making Fly? And then he was going up to, and now he's at bantamweight. And the Japanese have actually banned him from fighting anywhere below bantamweight because of the health implications that it had on him. So it's one of them. I thought size told. I thought it was a brilliant stoppage. I mean, Tanaka was out cold. And if he was allowed, it'd have been like a corpse hitting the canvas. Had the referee not have stepped in at that point, because he may have took a couple of other shots, but he can come back without a doubt. He can come back. As for Ioka, I thought he was excellent. Looked really good. It's one of them, and he did look big in there. I mean, I don't know if he's always boxed at Superfly, or if I'm just looking now. He's boxed at light fly. I mean, he can jump 108 pounds. What even is that in stone? He's boxed at minimum weight. Fucking hell. Yeah, and now he's up at 115. But I thought he looked fairly big in the ring as well. And enjoyed it. I would watch him again. It's difficult. When they're in Japan, I don't go looking, for different streams and stuff. But after seeing him on a channel, that's easily accessible, it's certainly something that you would look to go back to again.
Yeah, they're truly fantastic fighters, and I hope Tanaka rebuilds. He just ran into really probably the best. I don't think there's any probably about it. The best Japanese fighter of his era, and he was essentially, replicating what Ioka had done. Previously, just jumping those weight classes like he did, and doing them rather quickly, and it was kind of one of those things that was almost poetic, exactly, in so many ways, that it was like the trying to take the king off of his throne, and he just came up short. And don't doubt for a second that Ioka is really the king of Japanese boxing. He has built a hell of a career, and you're hard pressed to look at his record and see a fight on there that is not meaningful. He really never took soft opposition. Did he kick the crap out of a Kamita? I can't remember. If he didn't, that's a shame. Those guys are assholes. So, but anyways, back on that subject. So what do you guys think? Would any of you guys favor either Estrada or Gonzalez over Kazuto Ioka?
I'll let Andrew lead on this one. I think he's the best place to speak about this.
At this point in their careers, I think both Gonzalez and Estrada would beat Ioka at this point. I think Ioka would be in the fight. I don't think he gets iced. I don't think he gets taken out in that. He's generally durable and could go to points. And I think both would probably beat him on points. I think if especially if it fights in America, Mexico, wherever you want to hold it in that. Generally, the scoring is pretty fair in Japan in that as well, so I don't think that would be an issue. But I just think if it's a distance fight in that, I think Gonzalez, with his pressure, with his educational pressure, shall we say, Estrada has shown, many times, like, it doesn't matter, he's that Quadras fight that he fought with, that was potential borderline fight of the year type stuff that he was putting in there. So we know what he's all about in that. I think at this point, if you talk about that, size wise, I think Gonzalez he's fighting above his optimum weight. Estrada maybe to a lesser degree. Ioka, I think, is probably fighting at his best weight for his age in that at this point. So you don't know. I might come into play.
I personally, Van, I take Ioka over Gonzalez for sure. And I think that him and Estrada have an incredibly competitive fight. I just think that something that has troubled Gonzalez in much the same way that troubled Manny Pacquiao is a guy that can hang in the pocket, keep his balance, and punch with you. And what Ioka brings to the table is that extra length that he has combined with the fantastic balance, the ability to punch with people, a solid beard. I honestly think that he's really is bad on paper as it could be for Gonzalez.
Whatever happened to Jerwin and Koyas? Do you remember him? Where did he go?
He's still belt holder, is he not? IBF flyweight, aye.
Well, IBF are usually quite stringent, aren't they, about making him defend?
That is a forgettable reign. That one, like that's a Manny Pacquiao fight as well. I mean, I tell you who was calling it the winner of this fight. Actually, Andrew Maloney. He was calling it the winner of this fight directly on Twitter. I was talking to his trainer, his manager on Twitter the other week there. I need to try and see if I can try and get two of them on. But
is that him who fought Franco in that controversial?
Aye. So I think he's trying to get. He's not going to court now to try and get the third fight made because I think something else has happened to you with WBA with this fucking Joshua Franco. You know this greatest development or greatest finding since the fossil fuel or something like that.
Oh, fuck's sake! The most boring controversy ever.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, what happened with that Jerwin Ankas? Because he's not boxed since 2019, and that was July of 2019 as well. I mean, I understand last year was a bit of a funny year, but given that, it's the IBF who, were quick to impose mandatories and, it's a case of if you're not going to fight, then vacate the belt. Nothing in 2020. I've not heard a peep from him.
Yeah.
If you guys want to take a look there on the screen, I think we have a late entry for value of the week.
No worries. I'm just going to mention about German and Cajas. Actually, I mean that fight, that Miguel Gonzalez, that was the one that Andrew Maloney knocked out in Chile. I don't know if you remember me mentioning that guy that he fought. Remember he had a female referee, and he got two bogus bullshit knockdowns handed against him and stuff. Other than that, I mean, I don't know what he's doing these days. In that, I mean, the IBF you would think would make moves to maybe even strip him at this point and stuff.
Well, that's what I was thinking. They're usually quite tough, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm sure everyone's had their say on King Ryan already, right? Or no?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to jump in quick because one of the listeners was on to us about it, wanting my opinion on my DAZN feed there for $1.99 a month with King Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell. I actually...
And Gary Gadd. Gadd.
Exactly right. Gary Gadd, oh my God, he's on some form, him, by the way, we get to him. No, like I kind of mistakenly called on Ryan Garcia, I think about 2 years back or 18 months back when he was renegotiating his contract in public with his ma by his side. And I was like, who the fuck is this fella to be renegotiating his golden boy contract? I mean, Oscar De La Hoya is this, and I held him in such high regard and done this as a promoter. But I realized that afterwards that I was wrong and that Ryan Garcia, Oscar needs Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia don't need Oscar. And Ryan Garcia is calling the shots everywhere in his career because of his massive social media following. And I know it's almost it's cliched, like to nearly say you say Ryan Garcia and then immediately after you're already saying social media following. But this is something new for boxing. Boxing has built stars before. We never had a fella come in and he's already a star. Well, before he's fought anybody, like.
Just see if we expand on that, mate. I've listened to the Boxing Rant, and Kenny and Vince actually interviewed this kid. I forget what fight it was, Steve. I don't know if you remember you hearing about it, but they interviewed Ryan Garcia before. He might be on a Golovkin card, I think, against Canelo.
It was either Duno or Fonseca, one or the other.
Aye, and they says when they interviewed him, he turned up at their interview, it was like 5-10 minute segment and stuff, with a whole crew with cameras. It was his entire family. So this kid is getting groomed for stardom. He's supposed to be living the life as a boxer and stuff like that, but he's also got that shit in the background as well, So
let me throw something in. Talking of shit in the background, Rob. the thing is, he's with Canelo's team. He's got Oscar as his promoter. We all know about them two, all the awkwardness. Is that a good position for him to be in, a good situation, right in the middle of those two sort of warring factions?
Funny you should ask me that, Steve, because I was watching the Ak and Barak show on DAZN for $1.99 a month, and they actually asked him about this.
Oh no, Ak and Barak.
So they asked him about this, and he said, "Look, I'm just there to do what I'm going to do. Do you know what I mean?" Your man was saying like the relationship around you between Oscar and Canelo seems a lot more kind of friendly as when they're not with you. And he said, "Look, it's got nothing to do with me." Like basically, he's saying, he's cashing the checks. Like, he doesn't give a fuck if fucking Canelo and Oscar are talking or not. Like, I don't think so. I just get back to like it's a unique position because we've never seen this before and we don't know where it's going to go. And yeah, he's a bit raw. Yeah, I think Tank beats him now. It's his feet. And immediately afterwards I said, this fucker has to fucking stop hanging his chin up in the air, man. Jesus Christ, someone's going to clean his fucking clock for him. But all that shit can be worked on, and so far, like, the body shot was fucking superb, like, and so far he's delivered the goods. He definitely can punch. He has the looks. He has a following up like that dwarfs the biggest stars in boxing already, and that counts for something. Like, and like,
he's doing like saying, 3 million for interviews and stuff like that,
Dude, like I said to you a couple of weeks ago,
the zone that actually had the copyright strikes on Twitter on the knockout because it can privately monetize it and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. So, like, we're talking about a fight like Jones and Tyson generating 100 million in revenue in the pandemic. Imagine what Ryan Garcia is going to do if he's matched right. And it's funny, he's in a position to shit on her, and he's like, I don't give a fuck about Devin Haney. Devin Haney has like as many followers as Ricky Gravel's new account on Twitter. I don't give a shit about fucking Devin Haney.
Devin Haney isn't putting up those videos yet, though, is he?
No, he's like, I want Tank. That's the big money fight to make.
I'm tweeting that out right now to Ricky Gravel.
Ricky's a good lad for his toe. I can't keep up with him, following him back, man. He has a new account every week, so I just leave it. Like,
Exactly the same. I'm exactly the same with him. Like,
I just think. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm excited. I'm on the King Rai hype train. I hope that I don't give a shit. I know he's a fucking bathing in tears, little shit, and he is a fucking creep and all that. Like, but he'd want to watch it with his only kryptonite to his Superman appears to be his love for the Latina women fan base. Yeah, because he's not going to maul up, isn't he? He's shooting us up inside the club. He's going to have more kids. He's going to be like Broner if you don't watch it, but at least I think his funds are better managed than Broner, so he might be in a position to pull it off. But we'll have to wait and see it. But I'm all for it. Tank versus fucking Ryan Garcia on DAZN for $1.99 a month. Bring it on, baby. I'm all for that.
A homeless person with a cup full of change manages their funds better than Adrian Broner. So here's, we had a few questions come in actually regarding this fight. Good, we kind of came back to it a little bit, and there was a few more pieces to this question. But I thought the opening question was actually was a little bit interesting as far as just the greater sport of boxing and promoting it. Daniel Wilson says, "Hi, Steve." So, Steve, hi. I'm sure you're already covering the Garcia Campbell fight, but I'm interested to know what Garcia has to do to be fully embraced by the legit boxing fans. And, that's actually something I'd like to address myself, because Oscar faced something very, very similar early in his career. He kind of was the Hollywood guy, the pretty boy and things like that. And what Oscar had to do is he had to take tough fights and he had to knock people out. And he was still dealing with that, 10 years into his career. If you guys remember, I think maybe the last time that someone was really mouthy about that, maybe Mayorga was after this, but Fernando Vargas, when he was the whole "you're not a real Mexican" thing with Oscar and stuff, and that really pissed Oscar off. And he went in there and he kind of beat the shit out of Vargas in that fight. And that's what Garcia is going to have to do. If you want the respect of real boxing fans, you're going to have to go out there and get knockouts and beat the snot out of people who talk shit to you. It's about as simple as that.
I agree, Matthew, but I take slight issue as a Fernando Vargas fan. I think it was a close fight, and Vargas might have even been ahead up until the point of the stoppage. I'm going to have to jump in and defend my Fernando Vargas there.
I think Oscar let that go on as long as he wanted to, because he was trying to get as many punches in on Vargas as possible.
Fair enough.
I honestly, I think that's one of those fights where that was as much dog as you ever saw from Oscar. I'm struggling to think of something where he looked, I'm trying to think of a better word, but more street than a lot of moments in that fight. Let's see here. Patrick Sweeney. Let's see here. Anyway, not much original to say about the fight, but a question looking at Garcia's future. His two most obvious flaws, flat-footed and no head movement, seem to be integral to his plant and throw style. Do you think these can be ironed out, or are they so much a part of him at this stage that he's just going to have to learn to win-lose with them? Rob, you didn't get a chance to really join us earlier. Do you think that he can he stick and finesse what he's doing, or is he gonna really have to refine?
I don't know. I'm a tangential thinker, as you all know, and I just started thinking about Oscar. You're talking about times he had the dog, so I think against Mayorga he had it as well. And then I started thinking he tried to do it against Floyd, but the whole time he had Floyd back to the ropes. I wonder, was Floyd doing that impression he was doing of him in the 24/7, like, oh, I'm gonna rough and tough him up. Oh. Remember he did that in the 24/7. Oscar was like, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna be rough, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna be rough and tough. So
the two people who were
he's done what he's supposed to do so far.
There was always something up about Oscar a wee bit there. Eh? There was that would be when he's at the peak of his kinkiness, asking for stuff up the bum and the lady, cross dressed and all that sort of stuff.
It's kind of funny.
I think Mayweather was onto something, wasn't he?
Yeah, without doubt.
The two people who were able to, considering, you got shit talk from people, from other countries than just Mexico, but the two fighters who were really able to out Latino fight, whatever you might want to say, Oscar was a black man from Philly and a black man from Grand.
Oh no, I think this fight is and I think. To answer your question, I think he's doing everything. He's done everything he's supposed to do so far, pretty emphatically, right? Even with the knockdown, he was exciting against Campbell. Campbell, I thought, won that round, but didn't win another round in the fight. The other guy he knocked out, was it Bajaza, Fonseca, someone like that, was pretty good. So he's passed the test so far. He's generating the money. The psychology of a big fight, he's shown that he can carry a pretty big fight already by himself. I think he's going to grow into that role pretty naturally. But the psychology of a fight where you get somebody who's fucking with you at the weigh-in, you look at Hatton versus Mayweather. Sky released the documentary, and they had the cameras up close, and you could really hear what Floyd was saying to Ricky in those face-to-faces. He's like, "I should break your jaw." Just real quiet, like, "I should break your jaw." And you could see him just gnawing away at Ricky Hatton throughout the whole promotion, like to the point where it got in a fight. Ricky fucking steams in like a bull made for him. Like, so shit like that. If someone could do like that to him, beat him at the mental game, both before the fight and in the fight, I think that's going to bring something out of him. But so far, he's answered all the questions. You want to see it now. Like, see it now. Don't no delays. None of this fucking shit with the welterweights. Like we thought a couple of years ago when Floyd left the vacuum, they were all going to have a big fucking tournament. Turns out none of them fought each other yet. So we want to see these lightweight fights happen now. If Tank has to move the fuck up and make the fight. You're not going to make that kind of money fighting anyone else.
Robbie, do you think if somebody starts getting into his head and that, I think he might start bathing in tears?
I think both of them. I think both of them are susceptible for that. Gervonta Davis is definitely mentally fragile. I think if you could get the right opponent from the right dance partner. Lopez is another one, but I think Garcia so far is showing that he's the coolest customer. So I don't know if I haven't seen any signs of that with him. Just supreme confidence. Like, I know the others have supreme confidence too, but you can see during different parts of different interactions and different interviews and dialogue and stuff, you can just tell there's signs that they could be. So all these things play a factor, but we won't know until we see him, and we want to see him now in boxing. Jesus Christ, if it's giving us fuck off for 2020, give us in 2021, give us Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia a mega fight. Like,
yeah, the thing is with Garcia, I think that sort of youthful naivety as well actually helped him. That vulnerability going down in the second round, as stupid as it sounds, the fact he went down, got up again, exciting knockout. It gave him that. He reminded me a bit of Amir Khan. There was excitement. Doesn't matter whether he's winning, losing. People are talking about him. Look at Devin Haney against Gamboa, man. He could have done with being knocked down just to add a bit of excitement.
Yeah. He thanked Campbell after the fight for putting him on his ass. He took it as a learning experience. And I think that's an interesting type of character that only boxers have.
But as I say, so, I mean, and Barry Jones mentioned it as well. I mean, and I mentioned it, his feet aren't they great, right? And he's off balance. And that's Luke Campbell putting you down. And listen, he got put down hard. Right, and when you see the arm go behind your back like that, that's when you know you're a bit, right. If that's Tank Davis, as I says, with elite world class power, is Garcia getting up off that same shot? Is he? I don't think he is.
He did. I'll tell you what. He recovered really well.
Maybe not.
He
a lot bigger,
really well, and what could get a guy like Davis is the fact that he is, really bloodthirsty after putting somebody down, and he is arrogant. And a guy like Garcia, he really seemed to keep his wits after getting dropped pretty hard. So I could definitely see him dealing with kind of a Joshua Ruiz thing where dropping him is actually to his own detriment.
The can comparisons are spot on.
There was one thing I noticed. That ties in, Andy. What you said about Tank Davis kind of ties into what I was going to say, because one thing I noticed about him is he doesn't listen to Reynoso for his tag. So there's a bit of a disconnect there at the moment. Whether the Kings still work themselves out, it's not listen. Yeah, so if would he leave himself open for a shot like that against Tank because he's just not fucking switched on totally? But that's, we want to see it. That's fucking. Is there a better fight to be made? Fuck Terence Crawford and Errol Spence now. I know that's a better fight, but fuck that. It's not going to fucking. It's going to sell. Fuck all. Get Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis in 2021. That's the fucking fight to make. And Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. If you can get those two fights out of 2021, I'd be happy.
Just if you can make that happen, Rob will suck your dick. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. If there's any one person who puts all of that together this year, Rob will suck.
Well, I'm society.
All right, pay $190.91. That's fucking as far as I'm going.
Just briefly, my final point on that as well is it'll be interesting to see what happens with Floyd, because Floyd isn't building Davis up as some sort of guy who's going to have a legacy. They're building a guy up to be a pay-per-view star. So it'll be interesting to see what their next move is. We've not heard from Floyd yet about accepting this fight. It's all between Garcia and Davis and Tyson over some sort of a Zoom call, whatever it was, and stuff like that. So Floyd's got the final say in this, I think, as well. So as I says, I think the next move will be on Showtime, will be on pay-per-view. So you just wonder if the TV company aspect, it is going to become a problem. I think Barry Jones mentioned that, or alluded to it in that as well when we had them on there, that could have a problem because people, they want paid, they want to get the cut,
Yeah. And speaking of Rob left really quick after I said that, and I thought he was going to chaff his lips up already. Settle down, Rob. This takes time. So, no, it's like. And can you ask the panel what they made of Garcia being carried to the ring and wearing a crown, considering he hasn't even won a world title yet?
Where's he asking that question from? Space?
What is that?
Oh, sorry about that. I was a little bit away from my computer there. I was looking at my phone where I have my email open. Is that better now?
On the rest, mate, we couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're back. All right. Can you ask the panel what they made of Garcia being carried into the ring and wearing a crown, considering he hasn't even won a title yet? I personally think he made himself look a bell end and may have turned a lot of people off him. That was from Ant. Yeah, Steve, what do you think about that? Would Prince Nassim frown or smile at the young man?
I was actually thinking more of, wasn't it Floyd against Gatti? Didn't he come in on the throne? But I mean, he'd done a hell of a lot more.
They both did. They both did. Floyd did as well. But I swear that Nassim Hamed came in wearing.
He came in on a carpet.
Yeah, it was a carpet thing. I remember he fought. Fight Wayne McCulloch.
Carpet was dope.
He fought Wayne McCulloch actually. Was it Halloween or something like that? He walked through the graveyard and
the Thriller opening is overrated. The Thriller opening is overrated.
In Newcastle, I think, wasn't it, against somebody on the carpet?
No.
But Floyd against Gatti, I remember Floyd doing it against Gatti. Right. At the time, I thought he was a bit of a shit move, but I'm growing on. Garcia's growing on me. I like the way afterwards, he just got stuck straight in there, said he wanted to fight Davis, and he seems pretty honest and direct. I think he genuinely does want to take the fights, and it reminds me again, like Khan. I mentioned Khan before. Do you remember, Andy? We did a Punches from the Past on Edwin Valero against Vicente Mosquera, and I dug up that old BBC article where Khan was actively calling out Valero. He was bonkers, Khan, man. He just wanted to fight everybody, and I think Garcia has that same sort of mentality.
God, I missed Edwin Valero.
I've never really been one of Khan's biggest fans in that, but that was the one thing. It was always that fragility about him. He was fun to watch, good hand speed, he could hurt you and stuff, but there was always that opportunity he was going to get knocked out. And Garcia's got that, but as Rob says that as well, what his problems technically can be ironed out, obviously. What is he, 22? And that means there's obviously time and stuff. I just wonder as well, as this will prove actually how good the Renesos are as trainers, because I think a lot of it is doing is because I think Canelo is, by heart a legit fighter. He just needed wee tweaks here and there. I think he personally was the one that actually went away and learned from the Floyd fight, and that it wasn't Reynoso's changing something about him. It was Canelo actually understanding more about himself, actually, and kind of picking it up. So it'll be interesting to see if Garcia is as good as Canelo is, picking up his own flaws, and working on it and improving on it and stuff like that. It'll be good to see if Reynoso's can actually kind of, make him this great fighter like Oscar was, for example, and that this guy with a great left hook. So I think it'll be a wee test to see how good they are as trainers as well.
Last thing on the entrance, Matty. I liked it, but Jorge Arce came in on a horse once, so Garcia still got plenty way to go on that.
Chris Eubank on the Harley, man. Come on. Steve Collins.
George Grove
like
came on a double-decker bus, didn't he, against Carl Froch?
That's right. Aye.
Didn't he wasn't like a disco show for Groves basically before when he came out in the second fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, God, man, those were. God,
I just remember watching that, thinking, "What the fuck is going through his mind? What is going through his mind with this? Like, where's this going to end? Paggy on the buses, man, faint on his own leg." I'm glad I came up with that just there now. By the way,
that was a good one. He left in an ambulance as well.
And I think what the cool thing about these entrances is if you're going to do something, make it unique. If you're going to do something, it's pretty brash, go all the way. Don't half-ass it. And then there's also, like everybody comes out to music. Yeah, cool. You pick an interesting song, whatever. I think if you're going to go, pretty stripped down, man, I mean, is there anything that beat Mike Tyson coming out? If I could just, the black robe with the chains dragging, that's just frightening, and that's just bare bones. You do it any way you want, but be unique. I like the idea of building a show, creating an atmosphere. So let's see here. So these are some questions not related to the Garcia fight, just some random ones. I like this question. James Moynihan asks, I'd be interested to hear who each panel member's favorite fighter is. So what was it about them that led them to become your favorite, and which of their performances would you recommend to someone in order to best appreciate them? Andy, go for it.
We're talking like, any fighter, or just like...
You said favorite fighter. I mean, so it could be boxing right now, boxing in the past. Just grab someone that you think other people would. Basically grab someone that you think other people would like to see who they might not have.
Jesse Rodriguez. I'll go for but he's my pick for prospect of the year for this year.
I think it's favourite fighter of all time, Andy. Mine's Matthew Saad Muhammad.
All right, okay, I'll go. Well, it's easy for me to pick Duran, so I'll go Sal Sanchez. The reason why he could adapt in fights, he had unlimited energy, fantastic puncher, great boxer, great chin, great foot movement, great balance. The fight to go and watch would be Pat Ford. Big long guy, at least I forget. It was massive anyway. Like height and reach over Sanchez. Major problems early doors in that fight. 15 rounds as well. Actually, it took Sanchez the best part of 9 rounds to figure this guy out and really show what it was all about. And that he could actually change tact and that. Wilfredo Gomez, believe it or not, was coming up for super bantamweight at the time. Was actually a betting favourite over Sanchez at featherweight, and he smashed him up in 5 rounds. Zuma Nelson taking that fight, that fight just enhanced his legacy as well. The more Nelson actually grew, and went on and won fights and won world titles and stuff, and just enhanced him. And if he'd lived and continued fighting, there was no end. The talent he could have fought. Chavez, Ramirez. McGuigan might have been maybe a bit too soon actually as well at that point. Chacon, who was the other one? Navarrete, all the type of guys and stuff like that. There was Arguello was running about there as well at one point. The chances of him, if he'd have fought and lived today, there was a great chance that he'd have maybe went on to become class as one of the greatest of all time. Actually, without doubt, he was that good.
Andy, I know we're going long, but I'll just throw something in there. You know the way you mentioned him dying in the car accident. Isn't it interesting? All these fighters that have ended up that way. Like there was him, Carlos Monzon. I was thinking about it, Corrales, because of Errol Spence. He nearly added his name to the list.
True. I thought you were actually going to go down another route and say there's maybe overrating his actual achievements because he died early, or died young. I mean, there was one fighter actually, Valero. I was mentioning a fight I was watching the other week there. Hector Vasquez, I think it was, or Velasquez. It was one of those fights where people were saying that Valero was actually overrated and stuff. People jumped in on the conversation and says, "Look, Valero dying young. Just, at this point when people discuss him, he's actually overrated." So I was wondering sometimes we kind of think that about Sanchez, but Sanchez wasn't undefeated. He actually lost a fight in that as well. I just think he probably lost a few fights and stuff, especially as he went up in weight. But I still think to this day, 23-year-old, he'd have been definitely classed as one of the greats if he continued fighting.
Yeah, sky was the limit, potentially. Steve, what about you?
Yep, spoiler alert, Matthew Saad Mohammed's my favourite one. I used to, back when I was becoming a boxing hardcore, I used to trade videotapes recorded in long play career sets back in the day, if anybody remembers those. And this old grizzled boxing fan used to put me onto fighters who I'd never heard of. And Matthew Saad, I think he was still Matthew Franklin at the time. It was a fight between him and Richie Cates. As soon as I watched that fight, I was just hooked. And you could pick any fight, really. There's not one specific one. He had so many great fights. Matthew Saad Mohammed, I mean, he had a tragic story, obviously, being found by the nuns on the streets of Philadelphia, and he had a bad ending. I think he had real bad Parkinson's or something. And yeah, Matthew Saad Mohammed, for me, fantastic fighter. Any of his World Championship fights, Marvin Johnson, Yaki Lopez, Cates, any of them.
Rob, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I could say Roy Jones, but I've talked about Jones so much on the podcast over the years. It's kind of, I can't say any more than I've said about him. So I would say fighters of the last 20 years of that. I don't know, like, fucking hell, so many like that you could pick. I'd say go if you haven't seen enough of Sweet Pea Whittaker, go and have a look at some of his stuff. I think he could do worse. James Toney as well, unbelievable. Go back to a lot of his fights too. Classic fights, probably a waste of talent. In terms of looking after himself.
Sweet Pea versus Diabilius Hurtado, man. That fight, oh my God. It was right towards the end of his career, but you talk about a fight that's worth watching, man. I mean, he came out of nowhere to win that fucking fight. Holy shit. Ozzy.
Well, I've got a couple. One from the big guy, Saul Farah. I think everybody knows how much of a big fan I am. Yeah, so I was just going to say, if you've not watched it, I know Steve's a big fan and I think has watched the fight several times, but Farah against Cesar Mamani is
Which one, though, are you referring to, Ozzy? Is it like number 7 or number 11? They were the best two.
The first one
was the best one,
actually, because it went 5 rounds. Farah worked him out in, I think, the 5th fight and was able to break him down in a round. But no, mine's George Groves. I always felt, watching him kind of, he had that reputation coming, excellent amateur, turned over with Adam Booth. Was matched well from where he was knocking people out. And then I think one of the most favourite fights that, excluding the Froch ones, particularly Froch 1, it's always easy to focus on that. And I don't know a boxing fan to this day who's probably not watched that fight. But it was one involving him against Kenny Anderson. And Groves was badly, badly hurt in that. Sure, you remember that. I think you said, did you know Kenny Anderson, Andy, or knew people who knew him?
I knew people who knew him. Hard motherfucker, like.
Yeah, and he could punch as well. Could really punch.
Probably
And
Kevin
Groves,
Marie.
yeah, and Groves was gone. He was gone. He did well to hang on, and recovered well and stopped Kenny Anderson. Obviously had the big win over James DeGale. And then the rest is history. Another one as well, favourite fighter. You know, he may not be everyone's favourite cup of tea, but Amir Khan as well. He was always in good fights. Forget what some of the shit he does outside of the ring. But in the ring, Amir Khan has been, you know, all action, great fight. The Madonna fight is one of the best fights I've seen. And look, we talk about, you know, Khan having such a bad chin. I think that fight summed it up. Khan's chin is, you know, it stood up to Maidana, who's, you know, knocked people out, and Broner out, you know, well and truly on his feet as well. So they're a couple of mine. Something a bit different now for me. But yeah, Groves and Khan, and Farah was clearly a piss take as well.
Yeah, for me, honestly, it's Ricky Hatton. Even having never been to his fights, I challenge anyone to think of an atmosphere that really surpasses a Ricky Hatton fight. Interesting fact about Ricky Hatton that some people miss. For the Floyd Mayweather fight, there were more Brits in Las Vegas than there were tickets to the fight at the MGM. They drank the MGM properties out of beer. I repeat, the Brits came over and they drank Las Vegas out of beer. That's an incredible thing. The dedication is crazy. And for the fight, if you just know him by name or you saw the Pacquiao knockout, you saw the Floyd knockout, no, the fight you ought to watch. And, you know, I'm sure someone will say, oh, you know, you can pick something else, you know, his earlier career, British titles and all that stuff. No, the fight is Kostya Tszyu, where he showed what educated pressure is. He went into a dogfight and he made one of the baddest sons of bitches of 90s boxing give up with only 3 minutes left in the fight. Ricky Hatton was truly a working class hero. And you know, I wonder what he would have been if he had not gotten real heavy with the drink and with the drugs, because people forget what exceptional foot speed he had and how he used it. What a killer inside fighter and heart. And I don't know if anyone during that time around those weights closed the distance better than Ricky Hatton. Truly an underrated fighter because of the way his career ended. So let's see. All right. Ask one more and then we'll get to some values of the week. Now, I don't know if any of you guys saw this one. God, I can't even remember who fight that kicked his ass. Is this the last time we'll see James Kirkland stopped in one round, knocked down 3 times, shades of the Yoshida fight?
That was an ass kicking. That was bad. That was bad. It was like one shot and he was gone, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah, he can't take a punch anymore, you know, and it's a shame, man. You talk about somebody that you wish that, again, stupid idiot got in trouble with the law and he lost some years off of his career when he was actually coming back and looking pretty strong at that point in time. And that fight with Angulo, man, that was a fucking barn burner. People who've forgotten about that one, flip that one on when you got 25 minutes. I mean, that was a killer fight. And everybody had written him off. I don't know if y'all remember that. I mean, everybody had written James off for that fight.
What fight was that, mate?
Kirkland and Angulo.
El
Yeah, that was a great fight.
Oh, aye. That was when he just blew his bolt, like first round. And Angulo just got out the detention centre as well, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. It was, yeah, Angulo, I think he threw like 150 punches in that first round. I mean, he just shot his wad. And James Hubbard, he withstood the storm, you know. That was back when he was with Ann Wolf again. So she was doing that vicious freaking, I don't know what you call her training. I mean, you pile like a half a dozen dudes on top of you and you got to like fight your way out of it, you know? So he weathered the storm and he came back and he stopped. And that was a killer fight. So, but anyways, let's get to the values of the week here. Forgive me if I don't do the intro because we are we have had a long one today. Good time though. Good times. Let's see.
Oz want to get to his bed, so you better hurry up.
What time is it where you are, Matty?
Oh, it's
not fucking 22:11 anyway.
It's 3:40 over here.
Rob's running out of supplies, man. He's be chatting with dealer door shortly.
He's gonna have to go back in the house soon.
I was able to go to the store and purchase my supplies this morning.
Well, the thing is, it's winter time over here, Matty. So where Rob is, it's minus 22 degrees.
Yeah, it's winter over here too, man. Indoor, baby. Let's see here.
Freezing as well. Baltic, by the way, as you would say.
Baltic, guy.
All right, let's see here.
Especially if you don't win it this week, by the way. That's what I can say.
10 years in the making.
The first nominee we got this week, a gentleman named Ryan, involved in a conversation regarding the multiple WBC belts bouncing around. Ryan, handle my life being Ryan. I'm sure it's a joyous one. I don't think WBC recognizes the one Garcia just won as a world title. Devin Haney and Lopez are world champions according to WBC. At least I think the above is correct. Very confusing. I hope Eddie Hearn takes over and turns boxing into something akin to UFC. To which Toby replied, "You want Hearn to take over and think that solves boxing's issues?" Yes,
No.
Toby. Thank you for the submission. Yes, Ryan, and your life being you. It got you onto the podcast. Congratulations. We think you're special. Let's see here.
Oh, I love this. Kate Abdo.
Oh man, Andy, tell me what's going on in this one. I think I missed the reference, so you might have some greater context.
So at this point, Kate Abdo, lovely piece. Is it Chris Mannix and that gentleman there in the white tracksuit is Mr. Garcia himself, Daddy Garcia. And along the lines of, I can't quote it verbatim, but she said along the lines of, a man of good sperm having produced two sons who are fighting on the undercard and that. So it's a woman who knows sperm. That's my type of woman, by the way. She was good comedy, actually. She was really good, actually, I must admit. But apparently Mr. Garcia Sr. has actually got good sperm.
That's a good thing about DAZN. They're a bit rogue, aren't they? The way Grisham and the man Moore are sort of back and forward. It's a bit off the cuff.
Rob's two pals. What's his name again? What's his name? Fucking Mary and Harry. What's her name? Rob?
Akim Barak. Hey, listen.
Akim Barak. That's her name, aye.
$1.99 for fucking Kate Abdo in that form. You wouldn't get that on OnlyFans, man. DAZN is your only base. I'm telling you. You're missing out, baby.
I hope she put talcum powder on before she put that suit on, by the way.
Chris, HD.
I might get on it. Get a sperm band.
Looking at the elder Garcia there, I'm kind of shocked that he is a quality sperm donor. I suspect there might be somebody else around the block.
Honestly, man, listen, seeing I tweeted it out on the actual likes I got for the Ryan Garcia crowd was actually quite impressive. I was waiting for Logan Paul to hit me up at one point.
You think it's like King of the Hill, Matty? Do you remember your man who used to always go around with the? Wasn't it King of the Hill, that show?
Oh, what's his name, mate?
Hank.
Yeah, Hank. What reference?
Oh, do you remember the fella with the Native American son or something? And
yeah, John Redcorn, man.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, John Redcorn was the shit, man. Poor Dale. He never really put that together. Poor son of a bitch. Well, anyways, leaving the idea of cucking someone to getting them to raise your child. But hey, joke's on whoever that might be if that's the case, because he's got a millionaire kid and you're probably still mowing the lawn at the Wendy's. Matt Goldtrout Ross wrote, "The People's Republic of China is engaged in a cultural genocide of Muslims. WBC puts arguably America's most famous Muslim on the WBC China belt. I wish this was an act of resistance, but if it were, the WBC would not be permitted to do it in the PRC. That's simple. Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. It's
Who
this
gives a
is
fuck
weird.
about that one?
What's that?
Who gives a fuck about that one, really? Come on.
It's it's a son of a bitch. It's because it's kind of ridiculous when you look at all the different human rights infractions around the world and how we just in the world of sports we do bow to them. We have fights in all sorts of places where they have public executions and joy shit like that. Yeah, and that's the tough thing for boxing fans. It's like, how committed are you to any cause? You're, well, if you're not willing to go over there and fight for it, you're exactly committed as you're willing to turn off your television screen.
Well,
So,
I
your
suppose,
choice.
I mean, what I'll throw in at this one is at least Arthur Beterbiev ran the risk of getting stripped of his belt of fighting. Was it Fan Long Meng? I think it was. Who was mandatory challenger. Refused to fight in China. He said, you can take the belt. And for whatever reason, I think it might be because start of COVID and that, so it never really happened and stuff. So he was willing to lose his belt on principle. So, and what's going on there with that situation is pretty fucking deplorable. But yeah, it will need to get addressed at some point. But it's fucking China. Nobody's going to do fuck all.
Yeah, it's a fucked up state of affairs.
Bruna.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see here. Trying to look here. It's a little bit cut off on the sides, but it looks like Broner is getting his shit back together. He ran 6 miles in 54 minutes,
Jesus.
which would make it a 9-minute mile. So he's not going to be challenging Usain Bolt anytime soon, but I don't even know if I can walk 6 miles, so I'm not going to park too much. Let's see here. I went from blah, 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 57 pounds waking up, not even drinking water first. I take a shot in 1942, and for the rest of the day, waking up and telling myself I can change this shit. I become whoever I am, one of the best boxers ever. I don't look back in a few months in, liquor free, good for you. And over 30 something down, if you know this, but I love my family and money more. I was unhappy and depressed. Now I'm not as unhappy not as happy as I want to be, but I'm working towards my goals and dreams, no matter how hard it may be. Blah, 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 blah. And yeah. And Michelle Rosato's excited for him. I think anytime somebody quits doing dumb shit, especially when you're making millions of dollars to compete once, twice a year, it's probably a smart thing to do. But unless anybody wants to disagree, I think anyone who thinks that Broner was going to come back and be anything more than cannon fodder is fooling themselves.
I'm just going to wait and see what happens, because if he loses this fight coming up or looks bad,
who's he fighting?
A Mexican kid. Steve maybe remembers his name. I forget it off the top of my head at the minute, but
can't remember Andy Reid, isn't it?
It got announced I think it got announced yesterday, actually, the fight. So I was kind of surprised because I think it's like late February, I think the fight's happening. So quite quick. And I think he just wants to get active and stuff like that, because Rob was sharing videos showing us that the guy is an absolute degenerate gambler. He's fucking spent, I don't want to say it because I don't know, but he's probably burst a lot of his money. You've got Al Heyman holding his money back. You've got him in court basically saying that he struggles with mental illness, alcohol abuse. He's relying on others, namely his mum, his manager, his promoter, to handle his money. Right, so that tells you what he's under. Apparently, he's got vehicles leased under friends' names so he can drive about in, like, I don't know, Escalades and all that sort of stuff. The man is a mess, and I told you this was going to happen. And at this point, I should be celebrating actually, because. But
well, he'd have bad credit from all the jewelry he didn't return.
Yeah,
that he took on lease from various places as well. So
all the babies he's got to pay for. He's got like 9 kids or something like that. I mean, come on, dude. I mean,
Holyfield did that same shit, man. I think
at least Holyfield was serious about his sport, though. I mean, Broner just took it for example. Wow, I'm Floyd. I can go about doing what Floyd does. Thing is, Floyd ate hamburgers and ate shit, but he still trained hard. He still worked hard. He still 2 a.m. runs and stuff like that. Broner just got fat. Ate outside the division stuff like that, ate up in weight and stuff, and he just like inactivity.
He drops loads in different area codes. What are you going to say?
This is him finished now. If he loses this fight, this is him. He's got nowhere to go. He's asking for like $10 million, like for a fight, literally like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever it was. Now he's like fighting a Mexican who I've never heard of. Actually, I don't think he's even fought outside of Mexico. I think he's fought a couple of guys who maybe challenged for titles, maybe. But other than that, he's going to look good in this fight, because if he doesn't, he's back in the queue for like the best part of his career now. He's fucked, absolutely fucked.
Oh, totally. And he made his own bed, and he's going to have to lie in it. So, what are you going to do? It's kind of hard to feel bad for the guy, isn't it? Son of a bitch. It really is. It really is. Man, I remember when he was tweeting videos of him taking a dump at Popeyes. What a fucking idiot. This is a good one. Sam Jones wrote himself a birthday tweet, and then he retweeted it.
An absolute narcissist, by the way. That
he really seems to like himself quite a bit.
He does.
He looks well, though, doesn't
he? He does.
Yeah, he really does. Good for him. Let's see here. Cam Butterfield sent us this one. Let's see here. It's a two-parter, so I can look for it. Tommy Coyle has given up trying to be Conor McGregor. He's now trying to be Eddie Hill's 4-0 amateur star, 3 by way of Relentless. The hell does this mean? You guys might have to give me context on this.
Apparently Eddie's he's talking about. I think he's talking about Eddie Hearn. Apparently he's had like 3 or 4 amateur fights or something like that. And there's no record there. Am I right in saying that, Steve? I'm not sure.
That's right. He used to box as Eddie Hills, but it's true apparently, because we have exclusive footage, Andy, which we might drop if a few super chats come in.
Yeah, Porky apparently broke this news, so if we can get £20 super chat pledges, we could put it across the airwaves here.
Yeah, we've got the footage waiting. Just get those super chats.
We've got to pay for Barry Jones' appearances, and we're still like £15 short. So hurry up, guys! Come on. Barry's phoning me up here. Where's my fucking money?
Mean bastards.
Let's see here. All right. The value of the week 7. Let's see here. The first ever Bridgerweight King of Bolivia and Bridgerweight champion anywhere in the world. If you want that title, you got to come take it from the champ. Who the hell am I looking at? Who the hell is this?
Where's Ozzy at this point? Where's Ozzy? He's dropped off the call. That's Saul Farah, Matty, I must tell you. You know who he is?
I don't know if I've ever seen that guy fight.
Oh, what?
Have I?
Ozzy was like Ray Robinson versus Joey Maxim there. He was winning it on the cards, but he fucking flagged under the lights in the end. Got the 5-11 man, and he's had to pack it up.
He's getting heat off the wife, so they had to try and get another referee in the ring, but they said no mas. That, Matty, is Saul Farah. That guy is the king of Bolivia. He was cruiserweight, heavyweight, and now Bridgerweight champion of Bolivia. He has fought the great Cesar Mamani. How many times, Steve? 9? 15? 24?
He's fought Cesar Mamani about 7 or 8 times, and he fought Edmund Tababari about 10 times as well.
There we go. All by knockout, by the way. And do you know something as well as they actually referee each other's own fights sometimes? This is legit stuff. I know you've been missing from the podcast for about 6 years now, mate, but I'm telling you the truth here.
Was he really good friends with Morales or something?
No, he's actually got one arm longer than the other, actually, believe it or not.
Look at that chancer next to him there, Andy. Poundland De La Hoya getting in on the act.
What one?
Him pointing there to
the shitty grey suit and he's got the jeans on. I mean, I'm loving the Ben Sherman checkered tablecloth shirt that boy on the right hand side's got on there, like, and that belt, title watch, Steve, hashtag.
Well, no one's happier than him to have a belt because the way he's holding.
Fucking Kojak.
See, where the heck's? That one's not loading. There we go. Let's see if it does that. There we go. Let's see here. What the hell am I looking at here?
Any shit ones, just fly on through them. This was just a guy saying Canelo versus Crawford would be interesting.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, God. Value of the week for forever. The guy from Liverpool and Fight Disciples is on Talk Sport just now. Said one of the upsets of the year was for him was Canelo beating Smith. Huh. Well, every odds maker in the entire world disagreed with you, but we're all entitled to our opinion, no matter how stupid that opinion may be.
Yeah, just ignore them.
Let's see here. Garcia Campbell, hashtag belly of the week for the wannabe Michael Buffer impersonator. Get your own style. Yeah, that was kind of stupid. I agree. Cut rate Michael Buffer, man. You can't cut rate Michael Buffer. That's sacrilege. Let's see here. Trading Leather Boxing said, at Asylum, Bailey of the Week 4, King Ryan Garcia for this interview. I've broken some teeth from cringing so bad. I don't know. He's entertaining enough.
He doesn't talk shit good enough, though, to be honest with you. He's just a young kid, man. He needs to learn how to fucking do the right banter.
He needs to do what everybody from my generation did. You got to watch White Men Can't Jump, and after that, you can talk shit. That's a training manual. Let's see here. Magic Johnston at Magic Gordon 83.
Raymond, is that you? No, they say Raymond.
Oh man, what are you doing with that Z in your hair? You think you're the Black Zorro or something?
Yeah, Matty, the good thing about this one is Magic Johnston was having a bit of a mare himself. He put forward Jay Rosales for his list, but then he hashtagged it BOWT, so this is Bellew of Week there.
Makes me think of Ollie G in the house. Respect or respectpa. Yeah,
He tried to tag me in, but put an emoji in the middle, so that didn't work.
No, not really. Hey, good rip on it though. Good try. I appreciate that. You know, as long as you're thinking of us, we're thinking of you. Let's see here. Gavin Stevens at Asylum Belly hashtag or at Asylum Belly of the Week. Oscar De La Hoya. Oh, my buddy Oscar. Guys, enjoy what's left of 2020. This was in January. Oh, god damn. From January 1st. Guys, enjoy what's left of 2020 because I'm coming hard with everything 2021. Well.
He's only got Garcia and Ortiz left, to be honest with
you. Oscar, if he can figure out what year it is before he says something, I think that might work as cause. But, the hangover might have still been in 2020. So God love you, Oscar. Let's see here. At JS Park again, tagged us. Adam Smith's dream fight for 2021. Katie Taylor versus Natasha Jonas. Saunders versus Eubank Jr. Converse Brooke. Not even he believes a word of this. The hashtag, the article, Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua is not only the dream fight.
Adam Smith's the head of Sky Boxing and he's full of shit. He's basically trying to tell us these are his dream fights. Smith's a boxing man at the end of the day. He's been involved in the sport for 30 odd years and he's trying to tell us that YouTube fights are real and blah, 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 impressions and retweets and stuff. He doesn't even believe that shit.
Well, yeah, that's, there's a big problem. People try to do that. And I think that's the problem when you got too many company men and they end up disappointing the fans because they build people up and they end up just getting the shit kicked out of them or they end up being terrible fights. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. Chairman Park at Is Park again submitted this one to us. Boxing scene interview with Boxer Ortiz. Headline: I strongly believe Mayweather will have trouble with Logan Paul. All right, Victor. That's fantastic to hear. Does anybody know if he was charged guilty or if he was found guilty in all those allegations?
I don't know.
Huh. Interesting. He might have more trouble in prison than Mayweather will have with Logan Paul. Let's see here. Prediction time. How would the other side of this tournament go? Let's see here. Steve, tell me what the hell's going on in this.
Yeah, this is from Ultimate Boxer's Twitter account. I don't know if it's a troll account they have formed for this type of thing, but they're putting up a super middleweight showdown. On one side, you've got Canelo against Smith and Saunders against Murray, which we did a post-fight pod for. On the other side, you've got Zach Chelly against Georgiev and McGoldrick against Woods. Chelly wins their tournament. Who will he face? I have no idea what's going on with this account half the time.
The fuck? Yeah, this looks stupid. This is good job. Let's see here. Whoever the fuck you guys were there, you guys did a good job. That was pretty retarded. Let's see here. Belly of the Week nomination. Porky calling Raikou Terry. A little BLM faux pas.
That's a bit of a niche one. Just move on.
Patrick Sweeney. Any of the Loma quotes from this interview? He's obviously running out of excuses if he's bitching about CompuBox stats. God, that's the headline. Lomachenko cast doubts on copy box efficacy during Lopez fight. I really question how they count punches. You know what? I'm going to disagree with him here because I was so freaking adamant that the Bradley Pacquiao fight was closer. I went back just to count how many punches that Manny Pacquiao landed, and I counted about 80 less than copy box. So I don't know. It's a very ineffective system. So I'll give that to Loma, but you still got your ass kicked. Gavin Stevens, Big Russ, the King of Donnie, getting a mention here. Haha, you don't know, yeah, at Stephen Wellings. What the hell is this one, Steve?
Yeah, this is Porky Russ, a big boxing YouTube channel over in the UK. I don't know if you've heard of him, Matty. Porky Russ.
I don't think I have yet.
Yeah, he's a controversial character. You should get on his show, actually. I think he'd be right up your street.
Okay, right on. Well, Porky, yeah, I'll reach out through the show. I'm not on Twitter currently, but yeah, I love to talk all sorts of crap.
There you go.
Fantastic. Let's see here. All right, we only got one more. Fantastic. All right. Let's see here. At Delboy94, Belly of the Week nomination for the WBC for nominating Tesco Joe for Trainer of the Year. Yeah, I don't really know how the hell that you could nominate Gallagher. What do you guys think on that one? That's a pretty. What wins do you have under his belt?
Well, he got a draw for Natasha Jonas, didn't he? I think, and who else? Sandy. I can't think of any other Joe Gallagher. Callum Smith at the distance.
Trainer of the Year for that. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if it was Joe to put on that red dress, and Trainer of the Year without doubt. But I think, to be honest, I think that's all he's had this year, isn't he? Natasha by a draw. Callum got beat. So no, one other fight I can't mind off the top of my head just now. Don't think so. No, I mean, no, I shouldn't be Trainer of the Year. Reynoso. Try to remember now who's he's trained to kind of like wins this year.
Well, Garcia and Canelo, and Luis Neri as well.
Yeah, he's building a tidy stable. Honestly, if you're talking about just a greater stable in their body of work, it wouldn't probably be a bad show.
Yeah. But as I say, I think obviously Ryan Garcia's obvious flaws in that. We'll wait and see if they can iron out how good a trainer he actually is.
They haven't had much time together, though. It wasn't, Canelo has been a project, and you've seen the pieces come together over the years. And I think it more has to do with the fighters' dedication to their craft and the dedication to the system that Reynoso is building. And I think Canelo has shown that. We'll see with Garcia. Andy, what do you got a nomination? Do you have a nomination, Andy?
I've got a few, mate. I've got a few. So I want to put in one for Sergey Kovalev. Apparently, Sergey must have got absolutely blasted on the vodka, and that's so he started hosting an illegal stream of the Canelo Smith against Smith fight on Instagram. So it's apparently like it attracted something like 3,000 viewers or something like that at its peak, and apparently the zone are now going to be like potentially taking legal action against him and stuff. So I imagine some of the purse for his two fights he's got with the zone is going to be getting reduced somewhat. One for WBA, apparently Joshua Franco is the big WBA Revelation of the Year award. This is the guy who had to sit and wait for 20 minutes to get a decision over Andrew Maloney, which was complete bullshit. I think that's all I've got this. Probably I've mentioned before in the podcast, and that obviously you've mentioned Brunner and stuff like that. Finally admitting his problems, but shout out to Jonathan Lear. I've mentioned his podcast on this on here before, but to go on fake cancer and all that type of stuff, and then disappear like nothing's happened and stuff, it just doesn't sit right because there's people out there struggling with that same disease. I just lost my mother-in-law to it. There's people struggling with it just now, so to come out there and actually kind of like fucking fake this shit, then it's just bad. Just sticks my craw. So as I say, he had a really good thing going with his podcast and stuff. It's just absolutely washed away because he's past lies and stuff like that. So I thought it was, it's not a funny ha Billy the Beat and that, but I didn't sit out to me actually a guy who kind of like invent something like this and just I'll just move on for it. But there's a guy I quite like listening to his opinions and stuff, and just to hear about this, what he's been doing. For what I've been reading privately and that as well, for what I've been told, that it's just fucking wrong. So hopefully there's no dark in the door again.
One that a few people have asked me to nominate, but to be honest, I haven't even been following it. I haven't been on social media much. Is some beef between Spencer Fearon and Rob Tebbett?
Yeah, obviously I don't know what I'm blocked for Spencer and that, so I don't know if these are unblocked and stuff. But I think Spencer's all about mental health and awareness just now and stuff. Well, she's been called for some bullying and homophobic comments that has been made. Look, Rob can come on and he can make his own comments if he wants. That he can address it on his own platform if he wants and stuff. But, our door's open. We can talk to anybody. So if he wants to kind of come on here and tell us. And same for Spencer. Malcolm Fearon, he can come on here and tell us his side of the story if he wants that as well.
Yep. That's all mine, Matty.
That's all you got to see here. Rob, you got a nomination this week, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Eating a packet of bacon fries here.
Only the hardcores left now, Robert.
Fucking right. You know what? Every IFL interview nowadays is brutally honest. He's brutally honest about the draw, brutally honest about the decision, brutally honest about the knockout, brutally honest about the beef, exactly. Well, it seems it's crossed over to Mexican boxing because a video popped up in my feed. I didn't click on it, but the headline was Eddie Reynoso, brutalmente honesto on Ryan Garcia. So it's crossed over. I don't know how much Spanish is, but I thought that was pretty good.
Hey, you've been spending some time in Spain, Rob.
I've dabbled.
Oh man, let's see here. Oh man, and Steve, you got all of them up, man. We lost Oz. And some people wienered out today. I'm telling you, what a bunch of pansies. Well, you guys go ahead. There are so many of them I can't even remember. So if you guys think there's a consensus, let's give a winner. What are you thinking, Steve? Who would you say is the pick of the lick?
To be honest, I was gonna go for AB. I liked it, but I like Kate Abdo's sperm one as well. But Rob's coming in there with the brutalmente honesto. I think it's just done it for me.
I'm actually going to mention Rob as well for the comment he made on the Ricky Gravel. No fucking knows Devin Haney. Devin Haney's got less followers than Ricky Gravel, which is true. Actually, I just checked it out. It's actually true.
Do you remember, Andy, whenever Gabe got Ricky Gravel mixed up with Roland Gavriel, who fought David Benavidez?
Easy mistake to make, that
one. We've never seen Gabe since.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'll go for the Spanish channel. I thought that was a funny one.
I'm going for Kate Abdo. Just for that gal knows her sperm, and I like a gal knows her sperm.
Rob, who are you going with? LS Espanol?
I think I'll have to stay El Espanol, but could give Kate Abdo one either. I should get a vote so who knows?
All right, Steve, what about you?
Yeah, I'll go for Kate Abdo as well.
Oh man. And I was going with the wonderful Spanish headline. So we will go with a tie between the brutal and the brutal, and yay for sperm, yay for all that. Good. That was a good shout there, Robbie. Muy bueno, amigo. Los pantalones del muerte.
Fuerto.
What should we talk about now?
Buongiorno, principessa.
Adios.
Fucking 3 hours and 10 minutes. I think that's it.
Yeah, you get your money's worth this week, boys.
Oh man. Now, are we going to come back next week in this dead spot and try to fill some airtime, bring some people some happiness?
Should we just cut half of this and put it up next week?
I don't. Yeah. Ian, this has been a marathon. I mean, this must be my my penance from the boxing gods for my horrible tech issues last time. I hope they are much improved this week. And if this was based upon that, my ass hurts right now. So I am paid up. Have mercy upon me, gods. But we've had a great time this week. If nobody has anything else, I think that'll be a 3-hour marathon session. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Barry Jones, for coming in. I believe he talked to us for over an hour. That was one hell of an interview. It just goes to show you that love of the sport is not unique based on any one aspect. You can be in the ring. You have never been in the ring. We all love the sport, and that's what binds us together. That's why we do this show. We have some laughs, we rip some people, but damn it, we love these fighters to death, and we do respect what they go through hopping in those ropes. So, but thank you very much to Ozzy, Rob, Andy, Steve. God, who else? And Smitto's with us earlier.
It was good tonight, wasn't he, Smitto?
Yeah, he was with us yesterday. Has the clock turned over there yet? Anyhow. And I am your host, Matt DiGelinaro, again reporting from District 12, from what used to be known as the United States of America. Bear with me 1 second before we go. I'll flash my banner that I did from last week. Stands. Yeah, I can't see it. It says, "The fascists got me. Send help. Strippers. A tablet with Freitas Barrios preloaded. And sandwiches." From Maddie. They don't have me yet, but that still stands. If anyone wants to send me any of those things, I like strippers. They're everybody's friend. Be nice to strippers. So, you guys have yourself a great week ahead. We will watch some fights coming up maybe. God, I think there might be a Japanese card in the middle of the week or something, but it looks like we'll have some stuff going more towards the end of the week, and we'll have more great entertainment coming for you guys in a week. So, y'all take care of yourselves and be safe out there.
Think any doubts about your stamina were answered tonight, Matty?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Any of those doubts have been erased. So I can handle podcasts, but stamina in the bedroom is over. With that, y'all have a good time. Bye-bye.